Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Getting closer to the draft, too.
Yeah.
Which I am really looking forward to.
You're looking forward to the draft, or you're looking forward to being done with the draft?
Yeah.
Joe Alt's nickname should be Joe Alt Delete.
I'm boring. I don't have the interest that, specifically that you have.
On Twitter?
Do you follow everyone that covers the Patriots?
Not everybody, no.
Do that.
Why?
Because you
I
want
don't
your
want that-
algorithm.
But that's
You
the
just
stuff I don't want.
The only backstory or prequel that anyone is waiting for is Growing Up Perillo.
I feel like I'm getting old and I'm not liking things like I used to. Is there any more Patriots stuff to talk about here in our last 15 minutes? Because what else? Any Patriots stuff though that that happened?
You
Maybe some more
keep
emails.
trying. So don't put me in the category of the Bill bots.
Right.
Bilbo's.
What was that?
I like
No.
Bilbo's better.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and of course we get closer and closer to the draft. It's silly season with all the rumors and J.J. McCarthy rising up. But I think the headline today has to be the passing of OJ Simpson.
Well, the juice is loose.
You know, I guess he had cancer.
Didn't know.
Yeah,
Came out of nowhere.
his last post on social was in February, so, you know, chances are he was in, you know, so, like, I'm not sad about it, obviously, but I think it's sort of, it marks,
Yeah.
you know, something in American pop culture, history, sports. It you know, traverses a whole bunch of different silos in our country, and now he's gone.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of true. My dad worked for Wilson Sporting Goods up in Buffalo. Went back when he was at his prime, and so my dad had interactions with him. I think my uncle had like a signed football of him, but and then he was really hilarious in Naked Gun too. Like, I mean, it was just, and I think everybody remembers probably where they were when the whole car chase took. I mean, I
God.
remember coming
Yeah.
back from a summer hockey game at Babson, and you know what was going on, and just, you know, one of those before cable news really existed. It was one of those all of a sudden we're live following this, and I don't really remember anything like that before that.
I was in the Prudential Center Mall. You know, they have that
Yeah.
mall there, and I think it's legal seafood. But it's kind of
Yeah.
open, and they had all the TVs up, and walk by and see this white Bronco, and what's going on? And you see the lower third, and wow, they're chasing OJ.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
I lived in LA, I kind of did like the OJ tour, you know, like drove through Brentwood,
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously he was going down the 405, but the restaurant that they ate at, that Ron Goldman and Nicole, right? Nicole
Yeah.
Simpson
Yeah.
ate at the little Mexican place in Venice. I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know. Yeah, you like that kind of true crime stuff. It's interesting to
Yeah.
me, but I
So
don't know. End of an era, though, yeah.
yeah,
OJ.
yeah. Like I said, it's not something like we're sad about. I'm not, but it is something.
Yeah.
It's notable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a couple good documentaries, too, out there of, you know,
yeah.
I think he did it, so.
But, you know, here's another one. Like, if he hadn't done that, like, his life would have been, you know,
I mean, he probably
celebrated.
He would have probably had at least 2 or 3 more Naked Gun movies as Nordberg.
I mean, he was one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Yeah, and Pitchman, you know.
Yeah.
Analyst, like he had.
He was the Peyton Manning of his day.
Yeah,
had
that's a good way to put it.
You know,
Yeah.
he was in the midst of a tremendous post-playing career
Yeah.
that obviously is completely gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I don't know how you can sit here and have any degree of,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's a good day for the Goldmans, you know.
I
I doubt even that.
I don't
Yeah.
think it helps them at all, really.
No,
No.
probably not.
No,
Like
that's it.
it's,
You'll never
I have
get
a hard time sitting here trying to tell you, oh, well, geez, we lost a great running back today. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have that in me. Sorry.
You wonder if they still wondered something would come out that they would nail him finally.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that.
Is his bus still in the Hall of Fame, Canton?
I believe so. I saw. What was
Something
the
on
statement?
Twitter
Yeah,
that they
statement
put out a
that
statement,
you know
yeah.
his legacy on the football field will remain. That kind of thing.
Why would
but-
you bother?
And I don't really understand. I think the Heisman Trophy did something similar. I don't know why you would feel
Like
the need to do that.
Exactly.
Like anything.
right.
So Reggie Bush lost his. What was who lost their Heisman? Did some,
Reggie
Bush.
Bush lost
Yeah.
his Heisman over like his mom getting money and
Yeah.
Yeah.
OJ.
Over stuff that's legal right now.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't get Canton or the Heisman Commission doing that. I don't know. Have the Bills done anything? I'm serious. Have they done anything?
I mean, they're trying to raise money. Probably for their stadium. They're not doing anything.
Because the last time I remember, they still had his name up around their ring of honor.
Really?
I think so. I would have taken that sucker down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess innocent until proven guilty, and he wasn't proven. He was proven guilty in civil court, but not in criminal court.
That's another thing that I remember.
We all know he did it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I remember being in high school and we would do, morning meetings and we would do updates on like the trial and, the gloves doesn't fit, you have to acquit. I mean, now we're so overwhelmed by news constantly that everything is just news and it's always going. And that was just one of those things that was stood by itself. Like that was, just a kind of a precursor almost to what was to come, and certainly was worthy of it with it being a star that was, accused of murder. But, now it just feels like that's constantly on. There are trials on all the time and breaking news all the time. And, living in L.A., there's car chases like every other week. Then they go right into them. Like, I don't know what it was like before OJ, but that happens a lot out there.
So that's OJ. And then, of course, no less important here, probably more important here, is the draft. And we've been discussing ongoing conversation here. Anything changed for you since Tuesday?
So let me ask you guys. I'll kick you off. No, I don't really have
Paul's got a take.
I don't have much of a take, but I'm just curious how much stock you guys are putting in the J.J. McCarthy stuff. Specifically for us, for the Patriots.
I was actually talking to Evan about it. We were kind of joking. Evan doesn't like J.J. McCarthy very much at all.
But that's sort of irrelevant to what
Yeah.
Like, do you really think that the Patriots have strong interest?
I would say my feeling would be yes, but in like the early second round, like that. Like that's where it would make sense to me to take a chance on him. But I just think there's too many unknowns, and that's what I kind of keep going back to. At third overall, this organization needs a slam dunk. I don't care what position.
I did print out the Dane Brugler Beast.
The whole thing
yesterday.
You broke the printer.
I wanted to. Did you break the printer?
No, I printed the whole thing black and white.
It's very Eric. All right,
I'm going to come up then and make some copies.
I did print. Actually, I have with me, because we're going to record the quarterbacks segment. I did print the quarterbacks. So I thought those were interesting.
So he's got J.J. McCarthy as the fourth quarterback.
Can a brother get a copy of your copy?
Sure.
Because that's really all I can.
Yeah. He's got J.J. McCarthy as number 4, and I was thinking about it like every year, like there's the end of college season sort of thinking on these guys, and then the silly season starts and guys start to shift. But then almost invariably, what we thought originally is what happened.
Right. That's the theory that it doesn't really change a whole lot.
Right.
Internally within the league.
Yeah, unless the guy gets caught on film doing a bong hit.
No, that's a different thing. But like whatever the league felt about everything is generally the way it turns out come draft time.
Right.
Along the way, the media goes up and down, and we ride through all the different rumors. But I think in general, Fred's right.
And so if that's the case this time, I would, in answer to your question, I would say no. I would say they're not considering him at number 3.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I mean, he's got that thing that's, he's just an incredible leader, and it's so hard to quantify that as a professional. And I mean, and looking back, I mean, the kid has lost like 3 or 4 games ever in football. I mean, it's just obscene.
Well,
like
that's
what the record is.
That's
like.
kind of. I mean, for some people, it's not new information, but for me, it was. Like he came into Michigan and on like day 1 said, "I'm here to turn this program around. I'm here to bring it back." He was telling teammates, "If you're here to chase women and party, see you later."
Yeah.
Like that's what he was saying, So, I mean, that means something to me. I mean, he's a hardo, one, but also he has that attitude like Brady, where he's here to do one thing, and that's win.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it, but I again, like, look at Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, he never had lost really any games coming into, know, and so like, it's not really him. Like,
I'm not
the team
big on that.
Every team plays really hard and they win around him.
I like Fred talking about the intangibles, which I do think are relevant. When, if he had that kind of a mindset, he was that kind of a leader. I think all that's important. Yeah, I'm not really interested in the guy's high school record. I heard someone talk he won because he had like his regular high school. He was like Nazareth High School. Then he went to IMG. He won there. Yep. He won there.
Yep.
Well, no kidding. He's a big time recruit. How many games you think they lose?
Oh, yeah.
We had a great high school quarterback who's lucky if he's going to play Division III. He didn't lose any games either. Like, when you're a really good high school quarterback at that level, how many games are you losing in high school?
Right.
Okay, so he went to Michigan, and in 2 years he lost one game. Great. That's a factor, but I just think that people overrate this stuff.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. The stuff you're talking about, Fred, I think is valuable.
Yeah.
The fact that he has that kind of a mentality. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I heard them talking this morning. In the cases of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, there's no doubt that they were the best football player on their team. They were the best player on the team. With J.J. McCarthy, it's unsure. It's unclear.
I think I heard Bert this morning say.
Yeah, that's what I was listening to.
How many games did Michigan win the last 2 years where J.J. McCarthy was the best player? Whereas pretty much every game that North Carolina and USC had to win, probably for 2 years, was because they were the best player in the field.
Yeah.
But then
you said Jaden Daniels probably also hasn't had a lot of.
Yeah, but then you go back to the J.J. McCarthy thing is, well, how many games did he have to be the best player on the field?
Right.
And was he asked to be the best player in the field? And
so that's
the problem with J.J. McCarthy. He had such a good, solid team.
This brings me to my point.
Yeah.
About McCarthy, and I'm with you guys. I'm not necessarily buying the Patriots' strong interest in McCarthy. I'm not necessarily there yet, but this notion that he's the safe one, I don't understand.
Well, I don't understand that either.
No, I mean, I think
he's the safe pick.
He's the safe pick if all you're going to do is run the ball.
No, but can you do, I mean, if you really wanted to do that, you can't draft like Caleb Williams and just say,
right.
It's
kind of waste.
No, absolutely, but. If that's all you want to do, why do I need to draft?
Why do you need to draft anybody in the first round?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is that's why I'm anti-McCarthy. If I want a game manager type, like in the negative sense,
yep.
I don't need him. I can do Brock Purdy. I can just plug him in, like the net neutral that Barth and Evan talk about. I don't understand what makes J.J. McCarthy the safe pick out of him and Jaden Daniels or him and Michael Penix or him and Drake May.
In today's NFL, you can't get away with that. You've got to throw the ball. There's no way that you can dominate the line of scrimmage in the NFL the way Michigan dominated the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
In terms of play style. I'm just I'm specifically wondering, what do people think is safer about J.J. McCarthy than Jaden Daniels or any of the other quarterbacks?
I don't know what's safe about him. I think it's the unknown about him, and he's toolsy. He's probably, and he's that B-level quarterback right now, below the top three. I mean, at least in my mind, where I think Penix and Bo Nix and those guys kind of have their issues, but you can look at J.J. McCarthy and say he's athletic. He's got good size.
I think he's the biggest risk
runs well
out of the six.
But he's the biggest risk because you don't really know for sure. I mean, you can talk yourself into him. It's almost like if Mac Jones was super athletic and didn't really play with anybody, and it's like there's something there. He wins a lot, but
so let's just say you're a scout personnel guy, Elliott Wolf, whoever. You know what he can do. What are you looking for in J.J. McCarthy that can tell you, all right, he's worth taking the risk on? And I agree, it's kind of a risk.
Yeah.
But to me, the answer would be, how smart is he? Is he coachable? One of the knocks on him is everything's a fastball. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really have touch yet. So I would be looking for, can he process fast, and can he learn to, moderate his touch?
Yeah, I'm not telling you he can't play.
But he's got like you said, he's got the tools.
Yep.
I don't think he has as good a tools as the other guys do.
No. But he might have that. Brady didn't either coming out of college.
No, I'm not giving you the reasons why he can't play.
Yeah,
I think there's a chance that he could play. I absolutely. Yeah. But what I don't get is the idea that somehow, if you want to avoid that real bust, J.J. McCarthy is your guy because his floor is high.
I don't really
understand that.
I don't buy that.
But if there's some way to determine that between he, May, and Daniels, he's the smartest. J.J. McCarthy's the smartest in terms of processing, understanding the game. Maybe that does tilt, the scales in his favor.
I just don't think for the Patriots. I mean, Paul said the term high floor, and I'm not interested in that this year. I mean, I think that they would be better off just taking
we're
Joe
back to
Alt.
Mac Jones
They'd be better
yeah.
off taking Joe Alt at 3 than to put all their ducks in a row with J.J. McCarthy and hope that it works out. I don't see the safe pick to him at all.
You feel the same way I do. And again, I'm not telling you that I'm against J.J. McCarthy as a prospect. I'm intrigued. I think there's an element of unknown, like everybody said. But I don't understand, and this is widespread now. Like, the Patriots might like him because it's less, it's going to be less pressure on the new regime because he's safer.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot of work to do.
I've heard it on, a lot of my shows, Fred. I heard it on NBC Sports Boston with Michael Holley. I've heard it with Zoe a little bit.
Well, did anyone ask him why do you think he's safer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm driving.
This is kind of Zoe too. Zoe's on the McCarthy train, right?
Yeah, and again, this isn't. I'm not making fun of those who are on the McCarthy train. I'm just wondering what about. I think that there's an element of risk with all these guys. I think you come into the league. There's no way you can know for certain how these guys are going to translate, right? Otherwise, 100%. They would never make the amount of mistakes that they do with all positions, not just quarterbacks, but especially quarterbacks. And what makes this guy safe? And I heard a lot of this with Mac Jones that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
He's the safe guy.
We're not going to ask him to do what the others do.
I think this guy is wildly more talented than Mac Jones, like McCarthy. In fairness, I do not think that he's, as my buddy Murray says, Midwest Mac. I don't think that's really an apt comparison at all. McCarthy has far more athleticism and skills.
Yep.
Just in terms of arm strength, running ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little thicker.
Because numbers-wise, you can't even compare. Mac kills him in the numbers column.
Yep. But again, it goes back to Mac playing with an all-star team, and JJ, certainly his team was solid, and
the
he had
style
a number
of
pieces,
offense,
but
the style of offense,
the way that they asked him. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to him like late first round, early second. I just think the talk of him being a top 10 guy and someone that the Patriots consider.
If
I don't
you're
buy
taking
it.
a guy at 3, it's a guy that you think can be, special.
Get a friggin' star.
See, if you could guarantee to me that they could trade down, get everything else they need, and get him, I'd be a lot more interested than picking him at 3.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, me too. I mean, that's, I don't know. Me and Evan have been talking a lot about him the last couple of days of just, like how realistic is it? Does it even make sense because I just think he's a mid-round, first-round pick. I think some team will take the cheese and we'll take him
go in the top 10,
by 15.
top 5 maybe.
Yeah, see that, and
I don't get it.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy. But I mean, you can see some of the skills. It's just, I don't know. Having done it with Mac, we've been here before, and I'd rather miss on a high ceiling guy and take a big swing than to try to play it safe and get a guy who.
But is the problem with McCarthy is the dilemma?
Yeah.
With McCarthy's, we don't know how high his ceiling is. Like we don't like.
I don't know.
Because it's never like he's not done what he's been asked to do.
Yeah, but
he's just not been asked to do it.
Right. Yeah, but I also think you would have seen glimpses though. And it's just kind of the same way I feel about Mac. Like, even if you want to blame the surrounding circumstances, it's like great quarterbacks still show ways to show what their super talents are. And it's hard to think that he's going to get to the NFL and then all of a sudden be this kind of new dynamic player with, that, like you said, is making all the right decisions, is throwing the ball with pace when he has to, those kind of things. It's hard
and
to
I hate to
see
compare him
like
to Brady, but even with Brady at Michigan sharing snaps with Drew Henson, there was, the Orange Bowl that you could point to of him bringing the team back and putting the team on his shoulders. Yep. And they won because of him.
Yep.
You can't really do that with McCarthy.
Yeah, and I think, with Drake May, I think is everybody's kind of preference, it's like, you've seen those glimpses. And he's got similar kind of issues that he needs to work through. I mean, the word that pops up a lot from the Beast is reckless, making reckless decisions. And, that's something that can hurt you, but I don't care about like you got the arm, you got the size, you've got some creativity. Let's miss on him. Like I won't mind missing on Drake May, but I just think if you're going to take somebody like J.J. McCarthy, you want to have him in the mid-first round. You're not. It's not that first.
I just want to know what Ben McAdoo thinks.
Well, so to tie it up, right?
Put a bow on it.
So Drake May, if he's going to bust if he can't ever find a level of consistency, right? He will not pan out, and that will be, his downfall. Is he continues to make the kinds of mistakes that we've seen when he tries to do too much.
Yeah.
In college, he continues to do that.
Josh Allen stays in kind of those first couple years where it's like, what's he doing there?
Doesn't refine his mechanics, improve his accuracy, and avoid, risk.
Yep.
With McCarthy, it's that he's just not that good.
Yeah. Right.
Like Fred says, we never got a chance to see it when he had to put the team on his back. And it's not his fault that his conference. And again, I touched on this on Tuesday. For some reason, the Big Ten is considered, on par with the SEC, and all the other leagues aren't. I don't get it because the Big Ten is so top heavy with two teams. To me, 2.5 teams, because I think Penn State is good but not great. The other two teams can play with anybody. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really understand. I mean, Clemson won national titles when they were at their heyday in the ACC. The league still stunk,
Right.
and no one said anything about Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
Now, I understand that Drake May is not Trevor Lawrence in college. That's not my point. I'm just talking about the level of competition here.
Yeah.
That is my point. So, one guy, he has all the tools, but you got to beat some of the inconsistency out of him. The other guy just might not have it.
Right.
So why is that guy safe?
I don't get it. And I mean, I think it's worth pointing out that Trevor Lawrence thing, too, of how does he react when he gets to a team where it's not just a humming offense that's all built around him and everything runs smoothly and he just, can play his part. Like, it feels like if Drake May comes in here and he sits for a little bit and then he comes in, like he's going to have to deliver some stuff if this team's going to, make that kind of jump we felt like with Bledsoe, a certain point where it's like, okay, this team's starting to really build around this quarterback. They're starting to believe in him. We're seeing, we're seeing some evidence that this is headed in the right direction. It's just, I think it's a lot to ask of J.J. McCarthy to go into a situation where he's, at least on the field hasn't experienced a ton of, adversity. He's pretty much been on the winning end every single game he's taken the field since high school. So, what's it look like when his left tackle's a little rookie shaky
I just
or
would
doesn't
wonder,
have the weapons?
looking back at the 2 seasons he played, I would wonder how many games Michigan played that they legitimately could have lost. And my guess is that number is less than
Handful.
5.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, I feel like just because like North Carolina probably could have lost any game in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because they weren't, head and shoulders better than the other teams in the league. As evidence this year, they lost to some really mediocre to bad teams, like Virginia, because they're not that much better than Virginia.
And I think, along this same topic, in terms of games they should have won, couldn't win, Caleb Williams, I think, even though he's the consensus first pick, his stock is actually rising, if you can believe that, because people are looking back and seeing
just how bad
how bad their defense was. Mm-hmm. And, he's losing games scoring 30 and 40 points.
That's when he cried.
Well, yeah.
That's when his stock.
You keep bringing that up.
But I think, people are looking at the games that they lost and say, no, it wasn't Caleb Williams. That's not why they lost.
No,
Did you hear Bert today with that stat?
What was it?
Because I know Fred and I both heard the same interview.
Yeah.
He went through the whole year. The only time Washington's defense allowed 42 points all year was against USC in a game that they won. Yeah. That happened to USC like 6 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I'm guessing obviously everybody is that he's going to the Bears, but it's going to be an exciting ride for them. I think that it's going to be probably maybe a little bit of a roller coaster early on with him, but again, I think he's worth missing on for the Bears, and he's got that, special potential talent to just make plays, and if he's able to get some good protection and, learn to play within their system, he's got some pieces around him.
I just wonder what the Bears think of the other 2 guys, because if somebody was willing to give them a haul for Caleb Williams, would they do that? Because you know what? We can live with Jaden Daniels, or we can live with Drake May. I
don't think they would even.
I don't. I don't know. The more I've done, and I think I've said this, but I just Jaden Daniels scares me more and more. And there's just too many little things. And there's no question he's talented, but it's just there's only one Lamar Jackson, and I think that it's easy to be like, well, if he kind of can put it all together, it's like Lamar, and it's like only Lamar has kind of combined all those elements.
But he's at this stage in his career, he's a better thrower than Lamar was.
Yeah, but still, I think he's he's a little bit thinner. He's
slight.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't maybe have the technical issues that Lamar had to work through with his motion and those kind of things. But I don't know. He scares me a little bit. And again, it's it's just a third overall. I just don't think they can afford to miss. I'd rather take Brock Bowers and just we've got a stud tight end. It's not going to be great, but you know what I mean. I'd rather just hit on a potential superstar than roll the dice on a quarterback that you don't 100% believe in. And right now, really, I believe in May. I would believe in Williams. He's going to be gone, but and everybody else, I'm kind of like, like I want May. That's what I want.
Yeah, and the other thing they were talking about this morning is the pressure on an organization to play a guy right out of the gate when he's a high pick. And the only time there isn't pressure is when the team's pretty good already. When you have a Aaron Rodgers already playing or an Alex Smith and you're playoff contender, then there's patience.
Yeah.
We can wait. We're already in the playoffs. But when you're not, and you could say, well, you should be patient. It's easy to say, but when you see people not showing up at games, and your sponsors getting a little bit antsy, it's hard to not take that new toy out of the box and put him out there to generate some excitement. It's
I'm just interested to see a rookie in comparison to what we saw from Mack and what I saw from Stidham too as a rookie. I mean, this will be the third rookie quarterback that kind of just had a chance to see. That to me will be really fascinating, especially with the pedigree that somebody like May has compared to what Mack had.
Hey, easy to drink, easy to this is catch-22. I don't have reads.
He can still read.
I'll read it anyway. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Oh, here we go, just in time. And hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's not go to OJ's funeral.
No.
And also our internal read, support the home team. That would be us. Join New England's event staff here at Gillette Stadium. Seasonal positions available in food and beverage, parking, and security. Come meet us in person at Walk-In Wednesday, every Wednesday in April from 8:30 to 6:30. Gillette Stadium, E1 entrance. You may get an on-the-spot offer to join the team. I think, Mike, if you walked in, they'd be like, Mike, join the team.
Don't let me park.
Yeah.
Come right in.
Join the team.
They ain't let you park.
Yeah.
Way out there. Man, motocross.
Did you just leave your car home and walk today?
I should have. I know. It's,
I parked in lot 4.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah.
But
Where's that?
motocross taking up a lot
It's
of
the one
spaces.
by the movie theater.
So do you go in E2?
Yeah.
Actually, I found a little interesting nugget yesterday. I was going around, they truck
That
all this
might be
dirt
longer for
in.
me.
They truck all this dirt in, and I was asking them, like, do they travel with the dirt, or do they buy the dirt? And we found out that they actually store the dirt locally. The motocross, like, it's less expensive for them to just have a field somewhere nearby, and whenever they go to the city, hey, we got to go pick up our dirt. So probably interesting to no one but me, but
Yeah, I would think there's a whole science behind it because you don't want to bring in dirt from other regions.
you might
Because-
contaminate.
Because the air would blow around things and seeds from other areas could come and you could get invasive vegetation that isn't supposed to be here.
Oh, the Japanese knotweed, you got to watch out
Exactly.
for that stuff. That's bad. For ball.
This is great.
Just a little off-season.
Good dirt talk.
A little
No, but
off-season
if
me
people
and
don't
should
know what
relay
we're talking
that.
about, the motocross is here, followed by Monster Jam.
it's a lot of dirt.
And, it's tons and truckloads
Do they
of
both
dirt.
use the same dirt, though? Can you use dirt on a motocross that you also use on
I
a
don't
monster
see why
truck?
not.
Same
I don't
dirt.
see why not.
Quality of the dirt.
Yeah. But it's amazing how quickly they get that track ready.
Yeah. I know. I used to like dirt bikes when I was a kid. We had a little dirt bike that we used to cruise around in the woods with.
Yeah.
Never like these guys with like the power band and stuff. It takes off. Never that intense. But
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
I digress.
All right. So we got the draft, OJ.
Yeah.
What
Evan's
else?
talking to Taki.
Yeah.
And
Talkie to Taki.
yeah, Taki number 16 in your playbook. I don't know about that
Yeah.
one.
You guys are just so pathetic.
They announced some of the numbers.
Right.
Do you want to talk about that?
I'd love
Gonzalez,
to.
number
Gonzalez
0?
went to 0, which they put a picture up of Gonzalez. Me and Paul were talking. They already got a picture up of Gonzalez in the lobby, but number 6, so they gotta change
Prior
that
planning.
one.
Events.
Saw Mapu though. I think went to 15. He wasn't part of the announcement though from us the other night. So, yeah, some number jiggering. But you know what I was thinking about though? It's hard. Like, what are quarterbacks gonna do? Because all these like defensive backs and everybody's taken 0 to 20. And I mean, are quarterbacks allowed to go above 19? Like, I think that's it. Like, quarterbacks are kind of restricted. There's no numbers really available.
Paul, what's worse?
Number talk?
NILs or the number thing that they changed? Allowing all these players to have
I don't have
all
any
this
problem with allowing people to wear whatever number they want.
Okay.
I mean, you got like 10, 13,
like,
17, that's it.
The amount of attention it gets is, among the media is kind of odd to me.
Yep.
It's exciting.
All right. webradio@patriots.com is the email address. Our phones are still down, but we did get that piece of equipment, that critical piece of equipment that Matt Morrell needed.
Oh, really?
So I don't know how long it's going to take, but at least we've got the stuff in-house that we needed to change over our phone system to this new whole.
Man, we're going to get some hot takes when people finally are able to call in again.
I hope people remember us. Yeah.
855
I mean, right now, Eldridge is just driving around.
No one to talk to.
The tear coming out of his eye.
He's like just hearing us trash Michael Penix and
Yeah.
he's just like getting so road raged out. Like, I hope he's okay.
Have you been trashing Michael?
No, but
Yeah.
he's fine.
Let's see. Connor in Narragansett, Rhode Island, writes in. I haven't really seen this mentioned, but I don't think it's that bad an idea. If the Patriots do not love any of the top quarterbacks, what do you think about trading down to 6 with the Giants, getting their first 2 picks this year, their first next year, in Daniel Jones?
Ew.
See what you can get out of him for a year and go from there. No?
Do what at 6?
Well, you get all those picks.
Get Neighbors. Yeah.
You get a tackle. You get Neighbors.
So how many picks in addition to their starting quarterback are you getting to move down 3 spots?
You're getting another first this year and one next year.
What is their second pick this year too? He said the first 2 picks. Is that a first? They don't have 2 first.
I was going to say there was more than that he put in that email.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen enough of Daniel Jones in those joint practices. That's just a waste of time.
Yeah. Dylan from Nashville writes in, I was wondering why folks haven't been talking about Drake May's hand size, 9 1/8, which is small for an NFL quarterback. I've known it's important for quarterbacks to have bigger hands when playing in places like New England. Should this be a concern? Caveat, Mac Jones's hands are 9 3/4, and he still sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I've got
to
all
me,
their...
it's arm strength more than hand size, but
yeah.
Yes.
J.J. McCarthy's are only 9. 9. I got all the hands right.
9
here.
even?
Yeah. Caleb Williams is 9 3/4. Drake May is 9 1/8. Jaden Daniels is 9 3/8.
Small hands.
Connie's.
But if you have strong, smaller hands,
grip.
that would make up for
It's got
it.
one of those grip things.
To me, the thing about the bad weather is your arm strength.
Yeah.
Do your passes get affected by the wind and the weather? And I don't really see that as an issue with, to be honest, McCarthy or May. I think McCarthy's arm is plenty strong enough.
Yeah. Didn't Kenny Pickett have really small hands?
Kenny Pickett wore gloves and stuff. Yeah, he had small hands.
Yeah.
But again, can he throw? Like that's the big thing to me.
Tyler writes in from Georgia. On Tuesday's show, Mike suggested the nickname Mayday for Drake May should become a Patriot.
It's bad.
Understanding it was part of an email game, I nevertheless think that could end up being a harmful nickname for the quarterback.
We're going down. Mayday.
Whether justified or not, May is already going to be compared to Brady in everything he does. But to add that by forcing him to live up to the legacy of Red Sox legend Sam Mayday Malone is just unfair.
Wow, I didn't put that one.
That was my first thought, was
That's a
Mayday
good one.
Malone, but I figured I'm 110 years old. Not everybody's going to be on that one.
May's too obvious of a name. There's going to be too many annoying nicknames for him. It's got to be May. We'll hear, we'd hear a lot of that stuff. So,
I don't know why we don't have that drop yet. I've been calling for it for like 3 months, but what are you going to do?
it's music rights issues.
Speaking of the Red Sox,
Yeah, well, they
5-0 and they lose the game.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, it's not going as well against here on the East Coast. As
no.
Oh, when
they're actually playing a
when
team.
you play a team that can actually play, it's not as okay.
Yeah, it's too bad.
That makes them now 2-4 against teams with a pulse.
there you go.
5-1 against the others.
Ford and Savannah, with Cliff Kingsbury being the OC in Washington, the acquisition of Marcus Mariota, and the letting go of Sam Howell, can't we ascertain that Washington is going after Jaden Daniels? As you always say, don't listen to what they say, but what they do.
I think they're taking Jaden Daniels, but I don't know.
Is he saying because Mariota is kind of a running mobile quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
guess.
don't know what that has to do with it.
I mean, isn't he any more mobile than Drake May is?
I mean, he's fairly mobile. I mean,
He is, but like,
I think these guys are all pretty mobile.
yeah.
I think McCarthy moves pretty well.
yeah.
As much as I am not sold on him, I think he has good athleticism.
I mean, Daniels just has that.
Daniels is the
unique
best.
gear in
He's the
in
best
open field.
runner,
Yeah.
like an actual runner. I'm not talking just mobility. Running, he had. I think he ran for over 1,000 yards last year, right?
Sure, we could find that out right here.
Yeah, I mean Daniels. He's right. The email is right. He's the best runner of the crop.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, 1,100 yards.
So when we were talking about, the ability to, sit a guy and wait and all that, and how it's, I wonder if anybody has done any kind of studies on it. Like, I mean, Bert had, again, we're feeding everything off of what we heard from Bert this morning. And a lot of people have talked about, the last, 15, 20 years, there have been very few examples of guys that actually sat for a whole year. I think there's only 2 since 2008, really 3 because Mahomes played 1 game.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that played, the vast majority of them, has anybody ever done a study as to why that they failed, if they failed? As opposed to just saying, well, he got ruined, he played him too early.
Right.
Like, they talked about a story today about Green Bay. What did he say? He was talking to Mike LaFleur about it. And if we had to play, Jordan Love when he was a rookie, he wasn't ready, and
We would have
we
ruined
would have ruined him. Well, based on what?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to tell me he wouldn't have had the success, sure. But, like, I would argue Patrick Mahomes, had he played as a rookie the whole year, not only you would have been more dangerous in the playoffs that particular year, which you ended up getting knocked out. The next year, which was his first full year as the starter, was the famous 2018 AFC Championship game. Maybe he doesn't struggle for the first couple of series of the game, and maybe he just lights it up the whole game, and they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he accelerated the process.
Like, everybody likes to say, like, see, when you sit a guy, well, if you're going to say that, I'm going to say that it cost them a title.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Because if he played right away, maybe he would have won more. Like, there's no way of knowing.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
I would like to see, like, somebody really break down what a guy was coming into the league and have their coaches, that the team's coaches, where he was, mentally heading in. We talked to Brian Hoyer,
Yep.
little
You get a pats from the past.
Yeah,
Yep.
Matt Smith and I did a thing with Brian Hoyer yesterday for Pats in the Past. That's going to be out soon. Some really interesting stories he told. He talked about that rookie year for Mac Jones. There was a time that he actually thought that they were telling Mac Jones everything ahead of time. Like, this is what you're going to do in practice. This is what the reads are going to be, and that's how good he was, like, mentally. That's how sharp he was mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Mac was.
Yeah.
Okay.
He got ruined. Was he not ready?
Well, I think I was thinking about that same thing. And I think when the risk of playing somebody too early is when you don't have good protection, when you just can't run a play because you're constantly under siege.
But what I'm saying is,
But if you
even
have
then, how do you know
but
that the guy was ruined as opposed to not good enough?
yeah, I don't know. But like, if you're not giving him a chance from then that, if I don't think my line is right, I sit the guy. But if I think my line is right, I think there's like, to Paul's point, there may be less risk than people think about starting a guy right away.
I also think
if
there's
you
benefit
have
in
line.
having a guy understand. Like, Tom Brady figured out. Do you remember how much Tom Brady got sacked the first year he played, comparatively to the rest of his career?
Well, I remember Parcells, like, going to the line and saying, "I don't care what you have to do, keep this guy on his feet." I mean, like, he was adamant about that.
Yeah, I know, but this was Brady when Belichick was here, so it was a different coach. And
I thought you were talking about Bledsoe.
Did I say Bledsoe?
I thought you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
I
talking
said
about
how much
Bledsoe.
Brady got sacked. Bledsoe never got sacked early in his career.
That's what I mean.
Brady got sacked a ton in
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah.
Comparatively to the rest of his career, that was a very high total for him. And I think what he ended up learning from it was how to slide protections, how to understand where the pressure was coming pre-snap, and he turned into like the greatest ever. Now he's a savant. I'm not comparing anybody else to him, but I think there's something to be said for learning under the gun. Even if you don't have a good offensive line, there's some benefit that you can get from that. Now,
well, everybody points to David Carr, but maybe David Carr wasn't that good to begin with.
Well, that's my point, and I'd like to have somebody, not like a media guy.
Yeah.
Like, I want people in the NFL that were involved in these coaching staffs, various guys. Like, Johnny Manziel, to me, is not a guy who got ruined. Johnny Manziel, it's pretty obvious why he didn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Jamarcus Russell? It's pretty obvious why he didn't work. Like, I don't think he got ruined because he played too quick. But someone who had everything sort of in place, they gave him the keys. Like, tell me why Bryce Young didn't work last year. And if he's never going to be anything in his career, I want to hear from Frank Reich where he was mentally, what he thinks potentially he was damaged. You know, did he lose his confidence? Zach Wilson, did he lose his confidence as a result of playing too soon?
Yeah.
You know, I would like a real good analysis of that. Or do you just think the guy was kind of wild and rough around the edges and he didn't have any success and it spiraled? And he was never going to have any success, whether he waited a year, 2 years, or whatever.
I just think we throw around quarterbacks getting ruined
way too
liberally. I don't think it really happens.
Well, I mean, Bill Walsh was the famous guy who wrote the book on it, and he said that all quarterbacks should wait at least 2 years before they play.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but that was what he felt.
Like, like Carson Wentz. Did he get ruined? Or was he always not good?
Well,
Baker Mayfield, was he ruined for a bit, and now he's not?
Carson Wentz, I think, got ruined by his broken leg.
Right.
Like that was his second year. He was okay as a rookie. His second year, he was on the way to being an MVP. He broke his leg. I think he lost some athleticism as a result of that. But your point is valid. Like, what constitutes playing too soon equals ruining him? And I'd like to have someone really do a good study on that.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you I have the answer. I have no idea.
I don't either. I just kind of push back on the how liberally it gets thrown around that he was ruined. And like even with Mac, like I think there's a certain degree of when rookie quarterbacks come in, they don't know what they don't know. And to your point, Paul, like they're being told what to do and how it's going to go. But as their career progresses and the team needs more for them, certain guys just aren't able to continue that. Like they aren't able to organically evolve and become that guy themselves. They're like, you know what I mean?
So, like, when you say ruin, that means you're saying the guy had ability, but you ruined it. Okay, so there's three ways that you ruin a guy. He gets injured, and
and that's career. Like not ruined. It's just an injury. That's you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't see the correlation with ruin. Injuries happen. Like
Then the other one is like he was so bad he just never got a second chance, and so you ruined him. Yeah. You know, but who doesn't get that second chance? Like if even Zach Wilson got benched and then he brought back, and
Mac's getting another chance.
Mac's probably going to get another chance. So like, that's not ruining him. You know. So then the third way is that he was under so much duress that mentally he became scrambled eggs and he never recovered. And if that's the case, then he never was probably that good to begin with.
But I could make an argument that in that particular case, you probably didn't do him any favors by playing him too soon.
No, absolutely.
Fine. Yeah.
But like if he doesn't have the mental wherewithal to recover from that, okay, put him on the bench.
But maybe he didn't when he was 21 or 22, but he might have when he was 23 or 24.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's the hard thing, Paul. It's just like where's the line of like, well,
when
is he ready?
I just feel like we
you
just
know?
have these things that become fact.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not telling you that quarterbacks don't get ruined by playing too early. I think some of them do. But I just would like to have someone who understands this as opposed to just, oh, yeah, they ruined Mac Jones.
I mean, I would just say any quarterback who was quote-unquote ruined was not ever going to be an elite quarterback.
Do you know who
anyway.
one of the two guys that didn't play right away? It was Jake Locker.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't play right away. How'd he pan out?
That ruined him. That was what.
No, I guess he got ruined by not playing. He needed more experience.
Well, what about like Ryan Leaf, for example? You know, like why?
Or was it Jake? Was it Jake Locker?
Jake Locker.
It was Jake Locker.
Yeah,
Jake Locker.
What did you say?
It was him. No, I was trying to think if it was Christian Ponder or Jake Locker.
I get those.
I think it was Jake Locker.
Ryan Leaf. It's hard to make the case that he got ruined.
Yeah, we had a lot of issues.
Ryan
I mean,
Leaf
he was
had a lot
hurt
of
himself.
issues.
Right,
I totally agree.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's. I don't know. I really would love to just see one great example of this quarterback was ruined. He would have been great, but because his protection or he didn't have the right wide receivers, like I just don't buy all that stuff. Like if you're good, you're going to be good no matter what. And there's certain times when a guy gets an opportunity, and like Brady would always talk about it. I knew my opportunity was going to come, and they just shrink at the moment, and they don't take advantage of it. And maybe that moment passes them by, never to happen again. But I just think if you're going to be a great quarterback in this league, you're going to figure out a way to show it and to eventually get there. And if you're not, because let's face it, there's only a handful of guys that have ever been that good, you're not going to be able to put it all together.
And I kind of think that's what it comes down to is there's a reason why there are not a ton of great quarterbacks in the NFL, because it's really hard.
Right.
Not just because
and it's
they
like
play
there's
too
just
soon.
this like laundry list of guys like Mac Jones. I mean, would have been winning Super Bowls with San Francisco if the Patriots had just gotten him a left tackle and an elite receiver.
And I do think there's a lot of good quarterbacks in football. I just don't think there are a lot of great ones.
Right.
You know?
And at least the great ones, if they were deterred by an injury or a year where, like Brady, didn't have elite weapons, kind of had guys who had struggled to get open or had suspect protection, like they still show you ways to do it.
But there's probably a really in-depth, detailed, analytical look, like
pretty easy to figure out.
Like Fred's point, offensive line. What kind of offensive line did these guys have? Receiving cores, defenses. How many times did the game situation get out of hand and put too much on the quarterback?
Right.
That any
That's
quarterback
a good one.
would struggle.
That's a good one.
Right.
He was ruined by his defense was so bad that he got ruined.
It's really not fair and impossible to paint with a broad brush. Well, this is when a guy should start right away, and this is when he shouldn't. Every situation is different.
Yeah. I mean, I think the baseline I would stick to is that, I mean, I barely think you can sit a year. I mean, I give you half the season, I think at most, in my mind, that you just have to start the clock. And if he's not going to be able to play, it's not going to really matter. Unless, I mean, like you said, unless the team is a disaster.
I mean, I was covering the Patriots back when Bledsoe was drafted, and there was talk, do you play him right away?
Right.
And there were some people saying, you probably shouldn't, but they did. And that was Parcells, and he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can say anything you want about Drew, but you can't say he got ruined by playing too soon.
No. All right, we're going to take a break. Paul's hungry. We'll be back after this. If you want to see Toyota's best offers and have a first look at that, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go to the DraftKings commercial. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
What's up, everybody? Let's listen to a snippet of the latest episode of the Patriots Draft Countdown podcast presented by Bud Light.
All right, folks, it's maybe the episode you've been waiting for. We still got quarterbacks to do, but today we're going to rifle through running backs, tight ends, and yes, wide receivers, all positions of need for the Patriots. Maybe tight ends a little bit less so after signing Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry there at that position. But let's start off with running back guys in this position. Start with you, Evan, that it's kind of been devalued a little bit, and I don't think there's really a high-end, number one kind of guy. But there are a number of later round guys. Why don't you give us, though, some of the top round guys that maybe a little bit too soon for the Patriots?
Yeah, so this is not a particularly strong running back class at the top, like you said. There's no Christian McCaffrey. There's no Saquon Barkley. There's not even a Jahmyr Gibbs in this class. This is or Bijan or one of those guys. This is a day 2 and 3 running back class. I think the number one running back consensus for the most part is Blake Corum from Michigan. You also hear a lot of Benson from Florida State as well. He's up there too. But those two guys are really the start, I would say, probably in the third round. Maybe one of those guys sneaks into the back of the second round just because somebody wants to jump ahead and pick one earlier than everybody else will. But at some point in this draft, there'll be a run of running backs that will all come off the board, and those guys can all be a part of a committee and be, useful players at the NFL level. They're not going to be bell cows. They're not going to be that stud running back. But if you're talking about getting a tag partner for Ramondre Stevenson, those exist in this draft in droves. Like, there's a lot of those guys, but none of them really are looked at as like difference makers or game changers.
What do you got, Paulie? Any of these guys strike your fancy
Yeah,
at all?
I mean, obviously I like Corum a lot, but I agree with Evan in terms of, where does it make sense for the Patriots. I also like Jonathan Brooks a little bit, although kind of 1 year of production, so maybe some question marks there. There were guys that were lead backs. There were guys that, that certainly carried the load, but I think, like Corum's a guy that you look at him, you're like, oh, he must be a passing back because he's not very big, but he is that kind of a lead guy, and I like the way Evan talked about it, a tag team guy for Ramondre Stevenson. I just don't think you can afford to do it. I think you're going to be looking at day 3 guys, and I'm not even sure that you have enough room for that. I think that it's a spot. Like, you can't fill everything in one draft, and I'm not sure running back meets the threshold here. There's some guys that can play, and I would add, Benson as well with Florida State that Evan mentioned. I do like some of these players. I think there's some skill. Not enough really for the Patriots to think about him in day 2.
Yeah. So as we get into day 2, day 3 tees, any of those guys kind of stand out to you?
I think Corum's a day 2, day 3 guy. He kind of reminds me of Philip Lindsay. Just very downhill. Also catch the ball. That's one of the comps over there. Philip Lindsay,
not bad.
5'8", Yeah, no.
Made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, no, but 58 rushing touchdowns at Michigan. You can't ignore that. Can do a bit of everything. So that's kind of the sweet spot where I'd take a running back. Other than that, if you're the Patriots, you're looking 6th, 7th round, hopefully, and maybe undrafted free agent for that.
We were into Bucky Irving. We were at the combine. We were talking Bucky
combine.
Irving, and then he kind of had a terrible combine, but
historically bad.
Like his, he looked explosive in the games, but we got there in the testing numbers, not so much.
Yeah, so Bucky Irving's an interesting guy, and some of these other guys too, like Tyrone Tracy Jr. from Purdue or Dylan Lobby, the local kid from UNH. Those guys are all interesting. I just feel like when they sign Antonio Gibson, those guys are more of those sub-package pass-catching backs. Yeah. Probably not what they're looking for now. They're probably looking for somebody in that early down role, Ramondre, Damian Harris, like that sort of running back, which there are some options too. My favorite running back in this entire class is Marshawn Lloyd from USC. I just think that he's got the ability to run between the tackles and catch the ball out of the backfield. Great Senior Bowl week, but he's also like a vertical threat in the passing game too. Seams, run the wheel route, that sort of thing.
Give me the route tree.
Yeah, just definitely one of those backs that can do a bit of everything. And the way that he runs does remind me a little bit of Ramondre, where he's a bigger back, but he has that ability to move laterally and make guys miss and find the right holes and things like that. So he's probably an early day 3 guy, I would say, maybe end of round 3, early round 4. But that's probably where I started even thinking is that 4th round pick. I've kind of pegged it as a tight end spot, but maybe they think of it as more of a running back spot.
Yeah, Braylon Allen from Wisconsin was one too.
Another one.
Just giant dude. I mean, he's like fun to watch. Maybe not Derrick Henry, but like kind of similar size.
I got late round guy. I love the NFL bloodlines. Paul, we talked about this in the last episode, but Frank Gore Jr. All right, guy love Frank Gore Jr. Can handle the workload, and that's like potential 6th, 7th round guy, maybe UDFA. So
yeah.
So Will Shipley's a guy that I've always kind of watched at Clemson. Pretty productive. I get a little worried about guys that have that much wear and tear before they even get into the league, but pretty productive guy. I agree again with both Tease and Evan. I don't think there's that star power in this group. So it's going to be your flavor, your particular liking. You're going to take someone in round 5 or something, and you're going to hope that maybe he's better than Kevin Harris, and maybe he can earn a roster spot. Will Shipley's a guy I thought that had some versatility. A lot of production in the ACC. I know people don't think of that as strong as other conferences, but I think he has some ability too. And Irving, your guy, because you guys had me on Bucky Irving too, so I watched him. Man, and Evan's again right about Gibson probably mitigates that need, but he struggles in pass protection. I don't think that's
He's smaller. That was
not a third down back that you necessarily would clamor to.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy. I think what the hope was that he does show a lot of explosiveness on tape, and that did not translate to the combine. Now, historically speaking, running backs, it's not a big combine position because so much of it is how you carry the ball in pads and how you break tackles and stuff like that. So it's not really a big combine position, but Bucky Irving's one of those guys. I think his RAS was like 1.9 out of 10, or like it was a bomb. It was a very, very bad combine.
All right,
Sorry,
well, let's,
Bucky Irving. I like you a lot.
So let's move on to tight ends, and I mean I'd say it's kind of a similar class maybe. I mean you have Jatavian Sanders probably at the top, but otherwise you're really looking at like day
what
2,
about Brock
day 3
Bowers?
kind of guy. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I just completely
I don't
ignored
know
him.
his draft as deeply as you guys do.
No,
but
you know what the problem with Brock Bowers is? I ignore him
eliminate
because
him.
I'm like I can't even think about him.
Yeah.
Don't even get excited about him because there's plenty of reasons obviously to get excited about Brock Bowers. So Tease, why don't you give us a little?
Brock Bowers, I mean, he's been doing it for a while. Is he a senior? Junior?
Junior. I think.
Junior. He did in one of the finals. He went off. So I wasn't really focusing too much on the top guys because as a fan, I'm a little worried if they pick a tight end above the fourth.
Right.
So
Brock Bowers, like,
I'll go down to some of the lower round guys. We talked with Sanat and at the combine, but also I said it in the intro episode, Dallin Holker from Colorado State, just one of those receiving tight ends. He can break loose, good hands, has
Really
some
athletic.
speed for being a big guy. So that's one of the guys I'd like to see the Pats maybe snag later in the
Yeah,
draft.
Sanat's all over the place, right? Like everybody's got him. I mean, I saw Phil Perry. I mean, he just seems like he's kind of that sweet spot of like a 4th round kind of guy, really athletic. Maybe needs to work on blocking that. Who doesn't really at this level? But he's a favorite though.
I got a red flag on him. He's a tight end out of Iowa who went to Kansas State, not Iowa. What was wrong with him?
And he played hockey.
He played hockey.
Because Iowa's the tight end factory. Why didn't he go there?
Well, there's a guy named Eric All who's also in this class who plays at Iowa. But I'm just going to come out and say it. This tight end class stinks. It's awful. Okay? I'm just going to be honest with you.
Sorry, Claire.
Especially coming off of the tight end class last year and how stacked that group was. This group is Brock Bowers, gap, Jatavian Sanders, gap, people that might make an NFL roster.
But
That's this class.
let's talk about like some of the best NFL tight ends are drafted in the mid round. So who knows?
It's crap, Tease. It's crap. With that being said,
Cade Stover?
Cade Stover.
Anything?
So Cade Stover
I
is a
kinda
converted
liked him a little.
defensive end,
Yeah.
which I like.
Pass rusher.
Right, because he's got some
Versatility.
nastiness to him,
Yeah.
because he does come from that defensive background. So if you want a guy that can put his hand in the dirt and block some people, Cade Stover can do it. He's just not a dynamic receiver.
Right, and he'll take some time, and the fact that you have Henry and Hooper, 2 veterans in front of him, would give you some time. But again, this is a day 3 guy. This is you're just not in a position where it's not a luxury. That'd be a luxury pick.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
Well, I have to leave you, gents.
Where are you going?
A tad early to do some of my television responsibilities.
Is that why you got the shiny shirt on today?
I am going. I'm going
Clubbing.
Yeah.
Be sure to tune in to Paul Perillo today.
Denny
from 4 to
Terrio.
5.
It's probably not a great one to listen
No,
to today.
don't be sure not to turn.
It'd
in.
be like Paulie the Dancing Bear trying to keep himself
you're
out
gonna
of
navigate.
trouble.
Oh, we'll be listening.
This will be a tough one. This is one that I always fear when I come in on Thursday morning that Fred's waiting for me. It's like
Yeah.
Jonathan.
We got to walk down to the West Wing.
Jonathan wants to talk to you. So like that's always my fear. I remember I saw Fred at about 2:00 last Thursday. I was like, anybody say anything? He goes, what do you mean? I go, about me. He goes, about what? I go, like being on the radio. No, I go, sounds good. Let's move it along.
You gotta be like the guys on Cut Down Day when they try to avoid the guy.
Yeah. But with that shirt, Paul, can I make one suggestion? Unbutton one button, put on a Coke spoon. I think you'll be right there.
Yeah,
It's a
good
perfect
call.
shirt for that.
Taking fashion advice
From this guy.
from the Stain Police.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here in Patriots Unfiltered. No phone number yet, but webradio@patriots.com is the email address. And guess what? The beer is Bud Light.
Yeah.
It's easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And if you're spring cleaning, Bob's Discount Furniture can help. Shop storage-packed styles like super comfy sectionals with built-in storage, party-ready dining cabinets, and storage seating, and best-selling beds with built-in drawers. All at Bob's everyday low prices. Spring into the new season at your nearest Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots.
I need a party-ready dining set.
Party-ready dining set.
Was it dining set or was it?
So when you say dining, you mean a dining table and chairs?
Nah, I want like a nice storage. You know, it's got like built-in
credenza.
trash, and he's got a little like a wine,
built-in
little wine fridge maybe, and like just the whole thing, like
Wine
ready
fridge.
to party.
Yeah.
Well, for beers too.
Well, wait a minute.
No, and I'm thinking to myself, I can help him. How he's talking
You need
about
like a
wine
party
fridges.
thing or dining
Well, that's what
set?
I don't know what the read was. It said party ready shelf. Is that right?
Party-ready dining cabinet.
Cabinet. Okay, that's what I'm. Party ready. Like I need to have some
Yeah,
drinks.
so
I need
place for
trash,
the wine, like
store my
the
glasses. I
Yeah,
mean, I got to go to Bob's, I guess.
little fridge.
Yeah, it's a dream.
So are you planning on doing some entertaining?
No, would love to entertain, but I just at some point like to redo my kitchen. That's a dream of ours to like just really get our kitchen great. And
Well, there's
store
somebody
it
here
and,
that redid their kitchen that can probably help
Oh,
you.
really? Who's
yeah.
that?
Yeah, he'll show you everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I somehow avoided that one. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Webradio@patriots.com. Let's get back to the emails. This is from Kevin in Charleston, South Carolina.
Beautiful.
Love it down there.
Yeah, they just had a tennis tournament down there, and I was watching, and some of the commercials were advertising the benefits of living in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm like,
It's a nice place.
It's humidity.
Doesn't look too bad.
No.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Probably cost of living a little easier.
Yeah.
Get to live in South Carolina.
He's
though.
a loyal podcaster of the show since 2013. First time writing in. Almost steered my car into oncoming traffic when Fred started defending Bill's drafting at the start of the show, the last show, I guess.
I wasn't here for that.
Evan and Paul did great restoring sanity in the room, but I still don't think we talk enough about the fact that Bill overdrafts a guard in the first round when tackle is of a bigger need and in a more important position, and then the following draft still refuses to throw even a dart at tackle in the draft, but drafts another 3 guards between the 3rd and 4th rounds. Thank God we have a new regime, which we don't know how they'll do, but if Bill was in charge, we would trade down and end up with mediocre nose tackle or another box safety. Love the show. I enjoy my ride home from work on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hit on some solid players, but I just think the lack of real star. And I mean, I don't think any of the guys that they re-signed this year would be defined as star impact players. I like Kyle Duggar. I like Michael Onwenu. I'm glad that they kept those guys. I think they had to keep those guys, but it's not those picks that were why the team was floundering. It was because they couldn't hit on the first rounders, the talent guys. I mean, N'Keal Harry, Mac Jones, like those first rounders that never became those stars that you build around. That's what has to happen with this new regime, or you'll be back in the same place.
Mike from Connecticut doesn't like the fact that, Mike, you're constantly trashing Jaden Daniels.
No.
He says, Mike, we get it. You just want May.
Yeah.
How about you just say that instead of squinting like a child biting a lemon right before rattling off the tried and true critiques of Daniels? I take any of the top 5 quarterbacks over what we've dealt with since Brady, and I'll scream if we don't take Daniels if May is gone at 3.
Okay. I'll just stop talking then.
This is just another one of the examples that I can't stand. And I like Daniels more than Mike does. Why am I right? Like, I don't understand. Like, you rattled off the tried and true criticisms. Oh, might they be accurate ones? Or is it just your opinion that's the one that matters? It's like.
Hey, I'm sick of
there's
talking about these guys too. So you won't have to listen to any of it.
No,
after
but
on
why
Tuesday.
do you have to like Jaden Daniels as much as I do?
Yeah, well, that's what I think makes it more entertaining. When
No,
we
I
kinda
like
have different
May
views
more.
on
We're
guys.
both lockstep
Yeah.
on May. I want May over Daniels, but it doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
Like, why? These people go crazy with these things. These draft-related. The machine. It is. It's like in a draft. Like Felker calls it, the draft industrial complex.
Sure.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's insanity.
I mean, I think part of the problem too is just that I don't watch college football. So I come to these guys, and then, I'm slowly taking bits and pieces here over the course of the spring. And, I'm learning things that a lot of people have probably already known for 2 years. But I will say I'm coming to these opinions kind of on my own and not, just kind of listening to what everybody else says. So
Right.
I don't know. I've watched enough football now. I've been, covering the team long enough now that I feel like I trust my instincts when I like a player. And if I'm not to say I'm always right, but nobody is.
But again,
I have certain things I like.
Was it Mike? The emailer was Mike also.
It's Mike on Mike Crime.
Mike likes Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels too. I'm with Mike, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong.
No, and
he just doesn't like the squinting.
No, because Mike is not sold on Jaden Daniels. He's been very consistent for about a month.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
And he's too nice to just say, I don't buy him.
He sucks.
He's like, I've got to give it some thought first.
Well, and to be fair though, I'm not saying. I'm gonna still have him on my big board. I'm still intrigued by him. I have concerns. I think some of the issues that have been talked about are legit, and I have some concerns that he's going to develop into the next Lamar Jackson kind of player in this league.
Devin in North Carolina. Hey, Pew Crew, I've noticed that everyone that calls or emails from North Carolina are against drafting Drake May at number 3. Me, on the other hand, couldn't disagree more. I've watched most of his games at UNC, and I feel like the guy is a game changer. He's smart in the pocket and has a hell of an arm. He reminds me a lot of Josh Allen. Would you guys rather take Drake May or Jaden Daniels? Okay.
I'd probably go Jaden Daniels. Oh, sorry.
Drake May.
Right. I forgot.
Yeah, we haven't heard from as many of those people trashing May lately, and I think it's because the Patriots kind of look like that's where they're headed.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong, too.
Get on board.
And it's like the other part of that J.J. McCarthy thing that I didn't understand was Michael Holley in particular on the NBC Sports Boston show with Felger there, Boston Sports Tonight, I think it's called. He doesn't like J.J. McCarthy as a prospect. Doesn't like him, obviously not as a person. And I was like, I may have been wrong on that, but because you're getting intel that's letting you know that the Patriots are thinking about taking him makes you wrong? How does that work?
No, it's like the Mac Jones thing. You weren't a big fan of Mac Jones. The fact they took him, you still weren't a big fan of Mac Jones, and ultimately it didn't really work out.
I didn't kill him. Fred has often talked about this. We have our opinions going in, but then you got to see what happens, and if you don't adjust, remember when Fred used to say, if we just sit here and we tell you that everything is this way, and we're not telling you what's actually happening. I think in training camp was when you used to say that.
Yeah, you have a responsibility.
No one's going to take anything that you say with. So I'm not going to pretend because the team that I'm working for drafted him, so I got to give him a second look. No, I didn't think he was very good. I still don't think he's very good, but if he turned out to be an all-pro and I continued to say he stinks, then my credibility's gone.
Right. Yep. If you find that your future analysis is defending your take, then you're not being accurate. You have to forget your take when it comes to the actual what happens.
It's like our buddy Barth was on with Felger,
quarterback neutral,
and he net neutral. He absolutely torched J.J. McCarthy. What do you think of McCarthy? What do you think of all these rumors about him climbing up the boards? I don't like him. I don't. All the things that we've said. Well, what if the Patriots take him? You're going to kill them, right? Because Felger is. He just cares about your take,
right?
You're going to kill him if the Patriots take him, and there's this long pause. And I'm like, well, no. If you think this guy is a terrible player and the team takes him, you need to do what Evan did on Cole Strange.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't just say, well, the team I'm covering took that player, so maybe I'm wrong.
And it's such an organic thing, too. I liked Mac Jones. I saw, what the fit was, and I bought into he's going to be able to be, do what Bill wanted him to do, which was don't make mistakes, understand where to go with the ball, call the right protections, and then I evolved as I watched him over a period of time of even in those initial practices when he won the starting job in training camp, it was wow. Those joint practices against the Panthers, was that 2021?
The Giants.
When he got in when Cam got COVID. Yeah, so
And they changed the
and
playbook.
even there it was like, all right, there's something here, but then you
Well, they
started to
ruined
see
him.
you started to see right, because- and then they ruined him and it was over. But there was other things that started to come out with him. His style of play, where
Yeah.
when the game was on the line, he wasn't always at his best.
My quote with him was, "I'm very pleased that Mac Jones is the quarterback of the New England Patriots."
And
at
that's
the
about as
time.
high as you got. And then,
Yeah, and and then he proved me that I wasn't pleased.
Right, and I didn't sit there and tell you that he sucked his whole rookie year.
No.
I didn't say that. Even though I was still not sold on him, I didn't tell you that I think he
I
sucked.
don't think Mac's
'Cause
that good.
he was fine. We all remember your true feelings,
right.
when they came out.
But
that
I
day.
remember in early 2022, I forget what game it was, but I think Mac had someone had given him a gentle bump out of bounds, and he jumped off the cliff, and all of a sudden I came into
You
the
did.
radio
You
show
went- you went
hot,
off.
and I'm just I'm sick of this stuff. Just be a man and play the game, and don't try to draw flags, and then he's starting to put his foot up and kick people in the nuts.
No,
It's
it
that
was-
stuff was just I'm out on that stuff.
Individually, none of them were a big deal, but you add them all up.
And this is kind of who he is, and
yeah.
I think that all kind of fed into some of the locker room stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially defensive guys
when
who
you
are
hear the defensive players
you know?
talking about it the way they did, it
Yeah.
factored in.
Right.
Ramon has a would you rather game based on hindsight.
Okay.
Ready? Okay, first one is, would you rather start Stidham over acquiring Cam or letting Cam ride it out instead of drafting Mac?
Stidham.
Start Stidham over
I would rather have started Stidham over Cam.
That's Paul's take, and
Yeah.
I would jump to that ship for now.
Would you rather have not drafted Easley or not drafted Harry?
Not drafted Harry.
Yeah, Harry.
I think Harry too.
Harry, because even in when you saw him at his height of his get off powers with Easley, you saw what was there. With Harry, it was just kind of not really that intriguing.
Would you have rather prevent Peyton getting his first ring or a second ring?
Second.
Peyton Manning.
Second. Yeah. I think this. I just think that's more disappointing to me. I mean, the Patriots, for as hard as they
Second?
fought in that
First
first
one
game,
for
Me too.
Blew the 21-3
We had
lead.
that, and
Yeah.
then we had already beaten the Bears in the Super Bowl.
I know, but that was kind of who they were. I felt like the 15 Patriots were better than the Broncos at 15,
I know, but
and that was the one.
But I
that,
hate the Colts more than
you know,
the Broncos.
Don't let him go out with it. I think Peyton Manning's a great player. I think he deserved to
I
have
like that. That's
kind
a
of
good,
the odds.
That's a good reason, though. He hates the Colts more than
Yeah.
the Broncos.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody can appreciate hatred,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
me. Sports hatred.
Would you
know
rather win 6 rings in a 10-ish year span, or win all you attended in the 20-year span? Caveat is after the 6 and 10, you can win more.
Well, that's
So I would
complicated.
rather have won more then.
Yeah.
So they were 6 and
Tell
3,
me how
right?
many I attended in a 20-year span, and that's
I did attend
Yeah.
very many.
yeah. I don't know. And then
I
one
would
more.
rather win them all than just win
Yeah.
6 in a whatever it was.
Short
And
period
one
of
It was
more.
like 15 years, right?
Would you rather let go of Bill the year Brady left, or force him to get a GM with authority in Brady's final year?
GM.
A GM, I think he meant.
Yeah.
It's GYM, but a GM with
I
authority.
mean, they probably needed a new gym too. So it's
Would you have rather
Oh.
force Bill to get a GM for the final years, or get rid of him when Brady left?
I did not want to get rid of Bill when Brady
yeah,
left.
I didn't want to get rid of him, but it's hard to.
In retrospect, maybe it would have been better, but I
If
didn't
I had
wanna-
to choose
didn't want
between
it
the
at
two,
time.
I let them both go at the same time. A GM would have
Rip it
never
off.
worked.
No, it never would have worked.
It would have been just 4 years of more drama
Yep.
and all that stuff. Evan's here,
Hello.
and he just came back from some access.
Some press conferences.
Yes.
from
So,
press-
what news do you bring?
So we talked to Armand Watts and Sion Takitaki, so 2 new guys, 2 new free agents. I thought it was cool to first time we've talked to either of them since they signed with the Patriots. So it was always interesting to hear why guys other than money, obviously, why guys come here.
Time you talk.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I actually talked to Taki a little bit.
So I mean,
first
not that Armand Watts did anything wrong, but I was really impressed with Taki. Definitely a guy that can talk the game, and you can tell his football IQ is pretty high, and he was already talking about different roles in the Patriots defense and how he can play on and off the line and do all these different things. So I obviously was eating all that up. So it was cool to hear from him. I think the Elliott Wolf connection going back to Cleveland, and this one was sort of writing on the wall. Maybe not a player that anybody household name necessarily, but once you start to look at all the connections that brought him here, you start to realize that he was probably someone that they had identified in this free agent class. And then Amon Watts, I thought was interesting, talking about rushing off of Barmore, and he's another interior pass rusher that put up some pretty good pressure stats with Pittsburgh last year. So just being able to rush next to him and in this defense, and learning from some of the guys in Pittsburgh, because they obviously have some great talent on the defensive line too. So
Okay.
it's cool.
Yeah.
Was this an in-person or
It was.
Zoom? Yeah?
In person.
A lot of media?
A decent amount for a random
Okay.
OTA press conference.
Usual suspects or any new faces?
Usual suspects.
Yeah.
No new faces.
Yep.
No one's taken over a beat for anyone or anything like that?
No. Usual.
No,
usual
Nesson
suspects.
still doesn't have any.
Yeah, so
anything or
I don't think Nesson's.
They're not covering the team
I
anymore.
would assume. I would assume when you let all those people go, it's not like they were.
I was just kind of expecting there'd be like some young-looking intern type person that they just are like, you just go do it.
Maybe on game days, but
They'll probably have aggregators, right?
Yeah. I think they completely absolve. Like there is no more Patriots beat writer at Nesson. That position does not exist anymore.
Mood?
Well, we had some logistical things we had to figure out, Fred, for the draft. And do we want it to be in person? Do we want it to be on Zoom? And how are we going to do all those
that's
things?
exactly.
I thought that was already.
But
you
what
mean
do you
all three of them?
want?
Yeah, all
We're
3
looking
days.
for all three
But
being remote.
Right. Well, the
Well,
problem, Paul,
yeah,
is that they got a 10 a.m. Elliott Wolf, which will be in person. The draft doesn't start till 7, and then they're going to do in person afterwards. So it used to be the draft ends at like 11 or 12. You could just be at home and do virtual interviews. But now it's like you got to be here not only at 10 a.m., but you're probably going to have to be here at like 12 p.m., 12 a.m.
The 10 a.m. has never happened before. That's new.
Well, why don't we do both? Why don't we just? I mean, you can't ask questions, but they can watch it live.
Well, they're grousing about it, though.
No, it wasn't. Not grousing. It was
No,
more
not
just
grousing.
presented as an either-or
Who
scenario.
is the
and
current PFFWW president?
Andrew Callahan.
Andrew Callahan.
Yes.
And so is he the most outspoken? Does he speak for the group?
For the most part, but we pulled the class. I mean, obviously, I abstained because I'm going to be here regardless of if it's in
Well,
person.
we're not allowed
so-
to be in the PFFW.
Yeah, that too. But I it doesn't matter to me what they want to do. So I didn't really vote. But
so they were given the option to do some of this stuff virtual. I think
Yeah.
end of the night virtual makes
So,
more sense
like
to me.
Friday and Saturday are virtual after the draft.
Correct.
Right, according to the schedule.
Yeah.
Anyway.
yes.
Just first round in person.
I don't like read. I'm so used to the schedules that I don't really read all the detail anymore.
You
I
better
didn't even
start reading.
know. I didn't even know. Yeah, it's different now. So
Yep.
that's a good point. The 10 a.m. we've never had. I don't really understand the purpose of that.
So
You excited?
So is that on top of him talking to us on Thursday night?
Like that should have been part of your vote. Like we
I
don't
don't
need
know.
a 10
That's-
a.m. with the general manager the day of the first round.
Yeah.
I think they probably want to do it that way because then he's done with that obligation. He can focus. He doesn't have to interrupt pre-draft.
Or maybe Mac Rowe goes at the end of the night.
No,
Like, they
no,
let
we don't
Elliott
need
kinda-
him pre-draft.
But
Period.
maybe the league
Wait a second.
requires it. I don't know.
I think, are you
So
getting
do it
confused
like a week before.
because I don't know about this 10 a.m. thing. This is news to me.
Oh yeah, I didn't have any idea, but I told you I didn't.
Because
on the schedule,
it
I
was
don't
in
read
the
the
last
schedule
email.
all
So,
that
but that's
close.
a week from today.
Yeah. No, 2
No.
weeks from today.
A week from today, Elliot's talking at 10 a.m.
And now that's typically the case.
Okay, so maybe Paul read it wrong.
I didn't read it wrong.
I would have read it wrong.
So next Thursday, this is, I know for a fact, next Thursday is Elliot's pre-draft press conference here.
At 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m. And that is customary.
Right.
It every year.
Yeah. And it's been Matt Groh. Yeah,
Matt Groh,
yeah.
Nick Caserio. Yeah. Every year.
Yeah, we've always had something
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
the draft, but not the day of the draft.
No.
So it's the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
So you read it wrong.
I think
Again,
I read it wrong.
didn't read it wrong.
Oh, Deuce read it wrong.
Yeah,
Deuce read it wrong.
Oh, he was squinting when he was reading.
yeah,
it.
He was
Why.
thinking he was talking
No.
about Jaden
Oh,
Daniels
yeah.
and wanted no part of it.
All right, so I know what. Yeah, no, that's right. Thursday, April 18th. But it was under the column of 2024 NFL Draft
because it's the
availability.
it's the pre-draft press
okay.
All right.
conference that they do every year.
So there's a in-person after the draft that they're looking to make virtual,
So basically,
which I
yes.
actually agree with the masses here.
So the real question, Thursday. This is so like I don't think anybody cares.
No, but no one cares about the other stuff we're talking about either.
Thursday was already decided because that I believe it's in person.
Yeah, that's
on
what
Thursday
it says on the
night.
schedule.
Because
I did read that.
But Friday we do the on the field with Mr. Kraft and the jersey and all that stuff with the first round pick.
Yeah.
So people have to come for that. So the question to the class was, are you all going to stay through the night at that point once you come here, or are you all would you rather just go home and we'll make everything virtual from that point on? That was the conversation.
Really? Stay through the night. That's hardcore.
Well, they
right?
just wanted to know if they needed to keep it open, like the press, the media
and
work.
they're choosing to keep it closed.
They're
right?
going to close it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the pick that I would make. Like Evan's right. Like it doesn't. We're
There
gonna
used to be
We will be
someone-
in this room.
I'm not
There
sleeping.
used to be someone on the beat who, if that was the case, would have said, "No, I want to be here."
I think I
Show
know who
his
it
man's
is.
Oh, he just goes with names.
Right.
Yeah. It's just it so doesn't
I love
matter to
Shalice, but
anybody
she
else.
complained
but-
about everything.
Yeah. It's so the one thing I did learn, and maybe we can try to take advantage of this, is that either Elliot or Gerard may be coming up to the draft party after they make the pick.
Which would be a little bit different. Usually they come
Yeah.
before the
Well,
first round starts.
Nothing's set in stone, but we're planning on for our Patriots Unfiltered after every pick that we're on the air. We're going to get immediate reaction from someone in the war room. It could be Elliot, could be Gerard, could be Matt Groh, but we'll get immediate reaction live from right outside the war room after every pick.
You're looking
onto our
live.
show.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
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 I think that'd be a welcome addition, and you might get something that you haven't really had a chance. Do you think, and a lot of people have been tweeting about it, the amount of people actually in the war room, do you think that will go up significantly?
Don't know.
My answer is yes.
Yeah.
You think it'll be more people?
I mean,
There'll be
I
more
mean, it's
people.
not that big a room.
There were a lot of people. There were more people in the room than people think.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah.
but it's not like Dallas where
No.
it's like a banquet hall.
Right.
In Dallas, you can win like on a sweepstakes,
Yeah.
like be in the
Jerry's-
draft room.
Jerry's
But I think if they sent 9 people to these pro days, I think you're going to get more people in the war room. Than
I
we've
would
had
say
in the
yes
past.
because they keep saying collaborative, and so
Right.
collaborative means a bunch of people. So
it's also just when you're picking at 3, there's only so many different ways it can
Right.
go.
Yeah.
So like, it really isn't worth
well,
trying
it's
to.
just more people to high five. And,
Well, when I was a young buck, I think it was Pete Carroll's
When I
first
was a
year.
young buck.
I asked if I could sit in the war room,
Yeah.
and they said yes.
Oh.
So this is the old stadium, and they set it. It was almost like classroom style. They had like seats, with rows, and I sat in the back, and that was the war room. But the only thing about it is when Parcells or anyone talked on the phone, they'd go to another room.
oh, so you didn't get
So
the
all
good
these
stuff.
scouts and they didn't hear all that stuff anyway, and then they would just come back and,
I really wonder what it is like, because you get to that point, you have a board, right, and then it can't be as simple as they took him. All right, next guy on our board is this. Like there has to be, right. There's discussion, I'm sure, and no matter how much time you put into that board, especially like as Evan said, where. I mean, maybe it is just a no-brainer at this point.
It's
whereas
not like
you
us
get
on
down-
Saturday when hey, we're up in about 8 picks, and then you start watching, and then you pick, and then you just go and get a bag of chips.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, those are It says who?
Saturdays.
Who'd they
the
pick?
worst. Evan's the only one that likes Saturday.
Well, depending on who they pick. If it's anybody.
Last year they picked Pop Douglas on Saturday. I was pretty pumped about
Yeah, and Bodie.
it. Save the draft for me.
Great.
Right.
since Evan's here, I wanted to save this because it's someone making fun of Evan,
Oh,
so I want to
great.
make sure that
I got it earlier.
Rodney in Foxborough
Oh.
writing in. He says on the last episode, Evan talked about Logan Ryan, who just retired.
Yeah.
Congratulations to
Good
him.
player.
Saying if PFF were around back then, Logan Ryan wouldn't have rated him highly because he let up a lot of catches / made tackles after 8-yard receptions. Actually, PFF was around back then. I worked for them from 2011 to 2012 as I was finishing undergrad. Logan Ryan was drafted in 2013, and to my recollection, he was decently rated as a slot corner. I always loved his game, despite fans seemingly not being too fond of him. It felt validating to see him do well. Coincidentally, I started listening to the podcast in 2011 and once emailed in about talking about how PFF worked, as Paul was very dismissive of it. I vaguely recall Fred mentioning that my email
So is everybody else in the NFL.
I vaguely recall Fred mentioning that my email said I went to Northeastern, and Paul saying, I don't care that he went to Northeastern. I still don't care about PFF stats. So
That's harsh, Paul.
You know how I usually say I never said that? I am quite sure that I said exactly those words.
That was more about Paul, honestly. I mean, I just was.
Well, no, you said that Logan Ryan would be poorly rated by PFF.
Yeah,
and
because
he's telling you he wasn't.
And you also said it wasn't around back then, and it was.
Well, it wasn't like popular.
Get your facts straight.
I mean, you've got to get your facts
Come
straight.
on, Evan.
Correct.
If I can't rely on my nerds for accurate information, what do we have
sorry,
you for?
I think, though, that
You know what the kids say? That's weak sauce. Weak sauce.
They don't say that anymore.
That's what they said about 20 years
I
ago.
will say, though, Rodney, I would have some questions for Rodney about how he graded Vince Wilfork. Because I feel like in 2011, there was grading on Vince Wilfork that was the initial thing of being like, I don't agree with these ratings at all. And remember that season, he was like a beast. I mean, he was the only good player on that team.
And you hear a lot of these former players now because there's so many more avenues for these, like the Chris Longs and these guys, they destroy PFF. And I'm not talking about Chris Long individually. I'm just using him as an example. Edelman, these guys that when they talk about this stuff on McAfee's show, when those guys go on, they kill it for the same reasons I used to kill it. Because I just don't know how you're determining everybody's assignment.
Right. And if
it's different guys, if Mike Dussault is breaking down the Patriots game this week and Evan Lazar is breaking down the Jets game next week, like, that's not the same.
Yeah, and plus they have a platform, and that's what people talk about. And so if they've got like something on Vince Wilfork where they're saying he's actually not playing that well, and you're like, but my eyes are telling me that he is, and then the sentiment becomes
can't use the eyeball test.
The sentiment becomes
that's like the Mario test in Bronx Tale. You can't use that test.
Just for the record, their grades, like if you don't like their grades, that's fine. I'm not big on the grades either. Like the value of PFF is the actual analytical stats that they have, not the grades. Like the grades are what the make the headlines, unfortunately, sometimes, and are kind of like the driving force of their whole product. But like they have coverage stats, they have pressure numbers, they have stuff that is actually quantifiable. Like this guy got a quarterback hit on this player. This guy, is targeted in coverage on that play. Like that's the stuff that I think is mostly valuable to people.
And I think a lot of that is subjective. Pressure and coverage and stuff. I think a lot of, and I've talked to enough players to sort of validate my feelings on the whole thing. I think there's a lot of ambiguity that goes into who they assign.
Well, there has to be
coverage
like
to.
a quarterback hit. Is that because,
well, a hit is a hit. Like that's.
No, I know, but
I'm talking about pressure.
Did it come after 5 seconds when nobody was open and finally the quarterback got hit because he was too stupid to throw it away?
They do time to throw and stuff like that.
I just think it's a piece of the puzzle, and it's got to be. I like DVOA stats. I thought those are really interesting, and that's pretty straightforward. What you see yourself, and it's just all part of the picture. I mean, they've been helpful.
And I'm the first one to admit to it. Like I look at it from a different way, and I watch.
I mostly use PFF just for
just for the record. So that's what they're doing too. Yeah. They're watching the game.
But I'm not assigning blame to anybody. No, because I don't know what the coverages are.
Well, that's different. But
I've had people tell me that they've actually charted zone coverages on plays that were man. Like that's how far off they can be.
Yeah,
I believe that.
That's different. I just think when it comes to pressure in particular, the coverage stuff, whatever. But when it comes to pressure in particular, we just know so much more now about like sacks is such a small sample size to be measuring like who is causing the most disruption on plays. And so the pressure stats allow us to look at guys that are impacting plays on a more regular basis, and like pressure on quarterbacks is such a big thing in the game that it's good to be able to measure, guys that maybe aren't necessarily 10 sack plus guys every single year, but they cause a lot of disruption, which causes a lot of interceptions or incompletions or whatever. So those stuff are important. I have to defend the nerds a little bit.
So a good job by Rodney. He sparked conversation.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I look, their grades are hard.
So, and
It's tough.
we had a conversation about someone came at Mike about Jaden Daniels, and I was just like, I don't understand
Mike,
why
what did you say about Jaden
But I don't
Daniels?
understand why everybody has to have the
Same
same
things that
view. This
everybody's
is the
saying.
same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why am I going to sit here and say, Evan, you're wrong. You're wrong. That's actually useless stuff. No, I feel like it is. Evan feels like there's value to it. Why can't, people have different opinions?
Yeah.
Like, I really, you would have thought Mike, ended quarterback
What did you
drafting
say?
But as Ernie would
Their
say,
practices.
as Ernie Adams would say in Dynasty, if you're not in the building, you don't know.
Oh,
So when he tracks it, it's good. But when everybody
Well,
else
they know.
does,
They know what the play
They know what
is.
the play
but
was.
when he's doing it for other teams, it doesn't count.
Oh,
That's a good point.
there you go.
Well, that's still different. They're
Yeah.
tracking tendencies and
Yeah.
packages and stuff like
yeah.
that, which is some of the stuff that you say is valuable that PFF tracks.
That to me is
Definitely.
the most valuable
Yeah,
stuff.
me
Is
too.
that kind
Where
of
guys
stuff.
play, especially in the Patriots defense, where like last year. I mean, I think I've consulted a number of times with how did the free safety snaps evolve last year with Duggar and
Right.
with Peppers, those kind of things. It's great for. It'll tell when guys are moving up and down the line. Where did Keon White play last year? Where did they have him the most? Those kind of questions I think PFF is great for. They track that stuff, and that's easy to trust.
So there's PFF. What's their biggest competitor?
Next
No.
gen?
Next Gen?
Yeah.
Which is better?
I would say PFF is maybe a little bit better because they actually have people that are watching, whereas Next Gen's all with the chips.
With
Yeah,
the chips
just
and
tells
the
you.
shoulder pads?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's mostly accurate, but there's times where like I'll watch a play and they have the dots, and the dots they will actually identify coverages, and like it will say, oh, the defense was in cover 2, and I was like, that ain't cover 2, man.
To me, it's completely different. I mean, in order to do what PFF does, I don't think you can do it without watching.
Right. They have an
You
army.
can't do it with just chips. Chips gives you access to different things, I think. I don't know.
Right. Like their coverage stats on Next
Yeah.
Gen is who is literally the closest defender to the player.
Right.
Like by a
Geographically.
GPS
and
tracker.
that could mean anything.
Right.
You know,
And I
maybe he's not supposed to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's all part of the picture. For me, Next Gen, if you want to watch the game again or watch the all 22 or break down some play, like it's awesome. It's an indispensable tool. Like for if you're watching the game yourself, and I'm not really concerned with what the stats are, but they have all of that stuff there, and each play and the dots even makes it easy to identify who is where and stuff. It's that Next Gen thing's
I've
awesome.
had many DM conversations with people at PFF about Patriots player grades, though.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, you guys, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like this, like we're grading like. You gave Dante Hightower like a 50 for this game, and he was everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
that
I don't
was-
know what you're talking
That was my
about.
thing with Will Fork that year, where it was like I
think there's a lot of more examples the other way.
The balls aren't chipped
that.
yet, are they? Are the balls chipped?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, the balls are chipped, and what I'm waiting for Next Gen, I think will eventually is they can track velocity on throws now of how fast the quarterback is throwing the
But
ball.
no, I just want to be clear. So every ball that each team has, the big ball bag. Here it's infamous. They have a chip in it. So what do they tuck it into the laces? Where is the chip?
No, it's dug into the ball. It's just a little chip. Like it's not that big. So it's made in the core of the ball.
Who's currently the manufacturer? Wilson?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Wilson?
Yeah.
So
Duke.
Wilson's putting the chip in at the time they make the ball.
Yeah, the NWS or whatever the Amazon brand is. Yeah.
It'd be a good video.
Yeah,
behind
and
the scenes.
I think that'd be a
Chips in the ball.
That might be a good story.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because when you watch like the dots, like the ball just like you can see it, it moves like a throw. Like it just you can tell.
Let's see. Franklin in Baltimore writes in, as has become the slogan for 2024, I'm standing on business and putting my name behind Penix. I think he will be the best quarterback out of this draft, and he will be one of those prospects where, in retrospect, people will question why he wasn't taken higher. I'm mainly texting this in. So in the event I'm right, nobody can say this is a take in hindsight or that no one said this pre-draft. And if I'm wrong, I already have the crow in the freezer, and hot sauce in the fridge.
Just covering
No
our bases.
problem. I honestly, this is the opposite of the other guy that attacked you. I have no problem. You have an opinion.
I need to know what this.
No,
would
he
ta-
was just sick of me expressing my, kind of
Oh,
concerns.
but
about
it was
Jaden
like the
Daniels.
condescending, like, we get it, all the tried and true criticisms. It was the phraseology that bugged me more than anything
I
else.
appreciate that, Paul.
The tried and true criticisms of Jaden Daniels. In other words, you don't know what I know.
You don't know ball.
So
Right.
I understand why you would think that he's not a good prospect, Evan, because you don't know like I know.
See, this is how people think I sound.
Basically,
all the time, so.
basically,
Oh, it
he's
is.
saying all you're doing is repeating what everyone else is saying.
Right. Well,
But you're doing it while you're eating a lemon.
and squint.
Right,
Yeah.
he's squinting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he's an actor. He emotes.
I don't act. I sing.
Penix,
I dance.
Penix though, stock is cooling.
Yeah.
I would say on Michael Penix. So emailer, I don't know if the consensus around the league, the scuttlebutt, is necessarily on your side on this
Yeah.
with Penix.
Yeah, Penix has really cooled off. Yeah. Mike writes in, I'm pretty much on the board that the Patriots are going to take a quarterback at 3. How good would the quarterback we take need to be for us not to regret passing on a guy like Marvin Harrison or Joe Alt, Control Alt Delete? Assuming they pan out as expected, ignore process that says it's fine to miss on a quarterback and still be glad you took him. I think a quarterback like Tua or Derek Carr wouldn't be good enough for me because I don't think those are guys
Would
you
be
can,
for me.
Tua.
you can win because of. I think whoever we draft isn't as good, at least Dak Prescott. It would be better to invest in the surrounding situation. So it has to be at least as good as Dak Prescott.
Yeah, any of those three would be I would regret passing on.
Yeah.
Would love to hear what you think would be good enough to justify the pick in perfect hindsight.
I'm not a big Derek Carr guy.
Yeah, I'm not either.
So if it's Derek Carr, I think it would be tough to swallow. I think Dak and Tua are kind of in the same tier. Like I don't really think that Dak is all that much better than Tua is. I love Dak, so I'd probably have Dak higher than Tua if I were to rank them. But I don't know.
I think they're also going in opposite directions.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, if you get a good quarterback that you can win games with, and you pass on that for a good wide receiver, I'm going to regret that.
Yep.
And I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback that you can win games with. Out of those 3, he would be 3.
Yeah.
I like Dak and Tua more, but I would regret, Jared Goff. I'd regret having a guy turn out to be that good and not taking him. Now, I'm not going to be silly and say, what if he turns into Patrick Mahomes? Obviously, anybody would regret that.
Yeah.
But
The Bears do.
Yeah, and I just if you don't have a good quarterback, there are a lot of quarterbacks in the league that aren't as good as Derek Carr.
To me, the floor at 3 has to be Kirk Cousins.
Well, that's Derek Carr.
You think so?
I think they're both relatively the same.
Yeah.
I think Cousins a little bit better.
A little bit.
I think I agree with Evan. I think they're very similar, and I would regret passing on. As much as I'm not a huge Cousins guy, I would regret if he turns out to be Cousins.
Right.
I'd regret that.
So you're saying
you can
like
get to
that.
You can win
That
games.
would be my minimum.
That'd be your minimum.
He has to be at least as good as Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I hear that.
I wouldn't say if he ends up being Kirk Cousins, am I going to call him a bust and be all angry about it? No. But you're definitely
be a little,
better than
a little
Kirk Cousins.
disappointed. Yeah.
That's not the.
But that's not the question.
Yeah, this one says, what's the worst he could be that you would regret not taking Marvin Harrison?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fair.
I agree with Fred.
I want the 3rd overall pick. I'm looking for more than Kirk Cousins and
Which
Derek
is
Carr.
why I don't want to draft AJ McCarthy, but that's a separate.
We already had a long talk about him.
Yeah.
We all love him. We're in.
So let me just throw my real quick
trade up
thing
to
out.
take
We
him.
already talked about this ad nauseum, but the notion that you take McCarthy because he's the safe pick.
Yeah.
Why is that in your mind?
I think that when you watch him, he's at his best, basically running the offense on the first read. Like if you are in one of these offenses that's got one of these whiz kid coaches that can get the first read open all the time, and he's playing on time and he's getting the ball out on time, then he can be accurate. He can play within the confines of this pro style system.
Teeing up the ball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that what I did?
No, I'm for you.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So
Yeah.
I'd look at McCarthy as in that Brock Purdy mold of, is he going to be the reason why you win single-handedly? No. But if you put him in the right situation with a good play caller, and then yes.
Yeah, no, that's an analysis of the player. I'm just trying to wonder, and I've heard a lot of this. Well, you go with him because that's less like I've actually heard people say in terms of the Patriots, because he's the safest guy, and he'll be safe for the new regime. And I don't really understand. If the example I use is if May doesn't work, it's going to be because he can't figure out how to be more consistent, avoid mistakes, and get his accuracy, his mechanics down.
Right.
That's going to be why he fails.
Yeah.
McCarthy, if he fails, it's going to be because he didn't have the ability to do all the things that we never saw him do in college.
Correct.
So I don't understand why one of those things is safe and the other one's a risk.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think that the safe thing more, I think more comes from just what you believe McCarthy is in terms of,
right.
We call guys game managers or
you're making a progression on both sides, and you need to be right or you're going to regret it.
But all you're saying by saying that he's safer is looking at the style of play that Michigan had and saying it was a low-risk offense.
Right.
That's all it is.
But I would say, if you're saying someone's safe, that means you already think that they have a level of play that can compete at the NFL level.
Right.
I don't think J.J. McCarthy has exhibited that at Michigan.
Right. We know what he can do. No, we don't know what he can do.
Yeah, I think safe is not the word I would use.
But that's the word that has been used.
And it has, right? Like, I'm not making that's not one of my straw
it's not
men.
a straw man. No.
I think
like
the
you
other
like to accuse me of.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the word safe, but just to give you an argument, I think the one thing that J.J. McCarthy really gets a feather in his cap is his mechanics. His footwork and his release and his efficiency on NFL pro style dropbacks is really
right. And
but I would say
it's
that's
really
why
easy to have
his floor might be, the worst that he's going to be is a stiff, whereas May could be an abject disaster.
Correct.
But it's easy to
Like,
have
I
good
get that.
mechanics when you're throwing from an empty parking lot. He's
That's
rarely under
that's
pressure.
another good point.
Yeah, but he has that. That's I think he's not a project in the sense of his mechanics and his footwork and like May is. May is a playmaker, but he has those issues mechanically. JJ McCarthy, I think a lot of people are feel good about. We don't necessarily need to coach up his footwork, and we don't need to tweak with his release because it is compact and efficient. So all we're doing with JJ McCarthy, in my mind, is that he, as a processor, he's just not a creative player. He sees it and he throws what's open, but he's not somebody that's going to go out there and have this great creative playmaking gene that he's going to add plays to everything.
Because he hasn't been asked to do that.
No, he just doesn't do it.
When has he had to do it?
Do we want to pull up the film? I can.
TCU.
The thing is he is one of those guys that I consistently see on tape that leaves bigger plays on the field because he's got tunnel vision for the first read.
If there was one thing that before they hit the field, you find out about J.J. McCarthy that could change your mind, I say, you know what, this guy can do. What is there anything?
No.
No,
because I look at him as, like I keep saying, I look at him super similarly to Brock Purdy, where I think there is something to the fact that he's got a little bit of an it factor to him.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit of that winning culture, whatever you want to call it, that it factor. And he can move around a little bit. He's not a statue.
But if you sit down, if you were Elliott Wolf or whoever, and you sat down with Daniels and May and J.J. McCarthy, and in those one-on-ones, you realize of these three, McCarthy is head and shoulders smarter than the other two. He processes faster. Would that change your mind at all?
I would be shocked if that was the case because it just doesn't show up on tape. So maybe he can get up on the whiteboard and talk through the plays better than those other guys, but that's not football.
What if he comes to you and says, "Evan, you're the best decision I'm the best decision this organization's ever going to make"?
I don't know. I just can't get there with him.
What if he found out he played hockey?
Nope.
That did it for me.
What it comes down to is that if you're the Patriots and you're picking at 3 overall, your quarterback has to be the reason you win games.
I agree.
Yeah. The guy you draft has to be the reason why you win games. And I just don't think that he'll ever be the bus driver. He can be a very, very capable passenger, but he's never going to be the guy that's like, we're coming out of this game saying we won this game because J.J. McCarthy put us on his back and won the game for us.
Yeah. All right. Web radio at patriots.com. Alex from Warren. I'm an avid listener. Love the content you put out, but I have been a little disappointed with your lack of coverage on one of the most important picks that this organization has had in a very long time, maybe ever. I, of course, am talking about who is going to replace Hardy on the pre- and post-game shows. Bossman Fred seems to really want to focus on the draft to avoid this glaring hole on the team. Please be better.
We were just talking about that, actually. And
Yeah.
I don't know. In discussions.
Yeah. We'll see. See what happens. Mike in the OC. In past drafts, we would try to find draft prospects we had a feeling Belichick would like and draft over others. I wanted to ask you guys if you've done research on Elliott Wolf's draft history and habits, i.e. types of players, actually should be E.g., types of players on offense or defense he is known for taking in the draft. Are there certain types of receivers or quarterbacks he favors over others?
No, I mean, I think that's, we certainly with Bill, with how long he was, you had a good sample size of the kind of players that he liked. Certainly on defense, the kind of guys that he liked. And, having done like the big board stuff, and now like I've just kind of gravitated, let's just find good players. Like, let's not get too concerned about this type or that type. Like, just find guys that you really like, that you think can play, and, don't try to, well, I think this guy is great, but it doesn't seem like something like, and there's so much put up against the Packers and what the Packers have done. Like,
He's never done it.
I don't really get why, just because his dad was there in the 90s, that, now that's his, you got to find good players.
So you had 20-plus years of watching Bill and sort of trying to figure out what he might do, and we still didn't do it. I mean, people rarely. Yeah. I'm not telling you we never did. I mean, we all had hits, but Elliott Wolf's never drafted a player. On his own.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the first time he's in charge.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to look to the coordinators, and I mean that's why I haven't really veered too far off the path on defense. Like, I think a lot of the traits that they look for in the front seven will probably be similar. It's just the hard part, I think, is a little bit in the in the receivers. What do they prefer? There's all kinds of different flavors of receivers this year. What what tickles their fancy?
Yeah, but when it comes to quarterback, it comes down to one thing: what would Ben McAdoo do?
McAdoo do.
Yeah. So true.
What would Ben McAdoo do?
Yeah. I've tried.
What are you gonna do?
Heard you liked Patrick Mahomes. What do you like in this draft?
Carlos writes in. Kendrick Bourne recently appeared on James White's Money Down podcast. Everybody's got a podcast.
Everybody got a podcast.
Not the original.
If you ask me, what former Patriot would you say is least likely to have his own podcast? It would be James White.
Right. Why?
But because he's
very
so
quiet. He was great with the media.
He's quiet. He was like unassuming.
Well,
he wasn't.
He was just nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
that doesn't make for good podcast.
I didn't think he was overly quiet. I think he was really.
Yeah, I just don't see him as a host. But here he is
really,
with his own
respectful,
podcast.
really
spitting
nice
hot
guy.
takes.
Yeah, I definitely do not see him doing that.
But anyway, on James White's Money Down podcast, Kendrick Bourne said he wants to achieve 1,000 yards and 100 catches this year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Let's get goals.
I understand he's coming off an ACL injury, but would he be schematically capable of playing the X or being the number one in an AVP style offense?
Oh,
I mean, I just would say generally no. I mean, I think he's a good receiver. I mean,
all slots all the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I probably like Kendrick Bourne than a lot of people, more than a lot of people do. I mean, I think he was, really good, off to a good start last year. But I just, you need some kind of presence on the outside in some variety, whether it's speed, whether it's size, and they don't really have that right now. I mean, we can talk about Tyquan Thornton. I think that ship has sailed, but they don't have anybody on the outside that's going to occupy any kind of attention.
And Carlos he has a request for me. He wants me to point up to the sky and say, "Thank you, brother." What is that from?
No idea.
Is that like a meme that's going around now or something like
probably
that?
wants to meme you. Get ready. He's trying to.
I don't know.
Sitting there getting ready to make
If I knew the
you.
context, I'd give it a shot, but I don't know what it is. So.
We're not a monkey. We're not going to dance for you.
Yeah. Let's see. More May and Daniel stuff.
Oh, boy.
I mean, listen.
Hey.
People say, well, that's all you're talking about. Well, it's a big deal. I mean.
It's a big deal.
When's the last time we've had a need at quarterback and had the number 3 pick overall?
Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, that's the last time.
been a long
That
time.
was a long time ago.
I was barely alive.
Yep. Brad from the Eastern Shore, given that the Patriots will take May or Daniels at 3 and an OT, Jordan Morgan, at pick 34.
It's a guard.
Seems pretty
He's
is
a
he?
guard.
Oh, okay. Would you be willing to trade a third in 2024 and a third in 2025 and possibly a fifth for T. Higgins, knowing that you would need to pay him $25 million plus for 4 years? I just had an Italian.
I mean,
sub.
I don't know if those draft picks would get it done, but yeah, I'd be open to him.
I think
for sure.
the Bengals would
Yeah.
hang up the phone rather quickly.
Yeah.
If that's
I
your
mean,
another
I like
third?
the idea of acquiring T. Higgins. I'm not sure how to get it done.
Brad says I would, as it would give us a number one receiver. I know Snarky Paul will say he has never been a one receiver.
Who is this?
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins was absolutely a number one receiver.
But if we pick
His
up
rookie year.
But if we pick up a Jalen McMillan or Ricky Pearsall in the third round, then we will have 3 number 2 receivers.
17 slots.
And you know what Paul says? If you have 3 number 2 receivers, you don't have a number 1 receiver.
I can't look at it through that lens. I mean, I think like 1, 2, 3. Like I think that T. Higgins would be that presence on the outside that I just mentioned. I don't know how it all like.
It's more his
flushes
position.
out. Yeah.
I mean, to me he is a 1, but I think they need somebody to threaten outside the numbers.
100%. But you want to call him a 1 or whatever you want to call him an X, like. They need somebody on the outside who can make contested catches, who has some speed to stretch the field. That's what
But
they
I
lack.
like
None
T.
of these
Higgins.
guys
You
can do
didn't
it.
get what you were looking for there. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to because in Cleveland, Amari Cooper was their ex receiver, and they I think targeted Calvin Ridley to be Amari Cooper. Very similar type of route runners and guys at the top of the route. So as much as typically your ex receiver is this, Adonai Mitchell, 6'3", 205 with vertical ability. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily how AVP looks at it. Like, he might want a guy that's more in the Amari Cooper mold, which wouldn't be that type of player. So that I think that's the questions of, back to that other email of the Elliott Wolf type. Like, we don't necessarily know which type of receiver. Maybe they just think we're just going to get the best guy and we'll make it work with whoever that guy is. But if they're looking for a specific type of stylistic player, then I don't know who that's going to be yet. It could be a guy like Kendrick Bourne. I don't think is necessarily that, but he's probably more in the Amari Cooper side of things than in the T. Higgins side of things. So there's a little bit of overlap.
Yeah, when you look at the depth chart too, with Juju, and I mean, like maybe it exists in there because when I look at the depth chart right now, I don't see it. But maybe, like to your point, Evan, Alex does see it, and he said we want to play with. A little smaller, a little more speed. It's possible.
Their ex receiver again. Cooper is this type of player, so they might have just done this because it was Cooper that they had on their roster. But it was a lot of isolation routes on the backside of formations where he's got one-on-one coverage and he's a really good route runner. So a lot of the time he's going to win that matchup, and that was what it was.
And it's hard to say any of the Patriots receivers would do that consistently.
Right.
Like,
which is
I
why
like Kendrick Bourne, but I think he needs
Yeah.
to run through traffic and get over.
You never know. They might adopt the Matt Groh philosophy. If you want to get better at quarterback, you better draft a better quarterback.
It's a good point.
So we really simplified it for us there.
It's a good point.
Pepe writes in, I wouldn't mind if we got JJ. I think he'd be fine. He's a leader, got a good arm, has good mobility. I think people's opinions on JJ are on extreme ends for no reason. He has had good upside, and he is a fine prospect in my number 4. What really annoys me are uneducated opinions on his time at Michigan. People always talk about how he came into a ready-made team, which is fair, by the way. That team has been good for years. But nobody ever talks about how JJ saved Harbaugh's job. He was on the cusp of being fired because no other quarterback could help him get over the hump. JJ ultimately was what put Michigan over the hump. And I don't think he gets credited enough for it.
You mentioned 3 times in that email the word fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
I want more than fine at 3.
He's fine.
I mean, how much of of this though is just? I mean, for me, it's just the pushback of him being a top 5 pick and in consideration at 3. Like, I don't really have a problem with him if he was, late first, early day 2 kind of pick. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to him. I just think what makes me kind of push back is drafting somebody with this much unknown at 3rd overall when you need a star and there are stars there at a variety of positions.
I have an Andy Hardism for like the whole Michigan over the hump thing too.
Yeah.
Like, was he the quarterback that got you over the hump, or was he the quarterback when you got over the hump? Because I don't think those two things are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Cade McNamara beat Ohio State, broke that long streak. Because Harbaugh was going to get fired because he couldn't beat Ohio State. And then Cade McNamara is the one that snapped that.
Yeah, didn't all the other transgressions have something to do with it too?
No. He wasn't
With
going to get
Harbaugh?
fired because of the transgressions.
You don't think that, like,
No.
if he was losing
In college?
Yeah.
No.
If he lost and had those transgressions?
No, in college they encouraged that.
Okay.
But no, the email is right. Harbaugh's job was sort of kind of tenuous there, maybe 4 years ago, 4 years ago. But I just have a hard time saying J.J. McCarthy got them over the hump, as opposed to he happened to be the quarterback when they got over the hump.
But he's a winner, Paul.
Yeah.
No, and there's something
He's
to be
like,
said for
only
that.
come
but,
here if you want to win. We're
like,
not drinking or nothing.
You know, like, this is an extreme. I admit it. This is like kind of an Andy Hart like example. Who's the biggest winner in the history of college football?
Tebow?
Tim Tebow. You want him?
Not a quarterback.
I was going to say Jim Thorpe.
He's the ultimate winner.
Yeah.
Like, ultimate leader, ultimate guy who dragged teams across the finish line.
Yeah.
Nobody won like
past.
Tim Tebow.
I love when I answer
I'm
going to
be
example question
I'm going to be all
correctly.
bloody at the end of the game, and everybody's going, Tebow. Couldn't play.
Yeah.
Nope.
I always feel like
Ultimate winner.
I
Ultimate
always
winner.
have a tough time equating winning in college to the quarterback because the teams that win the national championship in college are loaded.
They're generally the best team.
On both sides of the ball, right? And Michigan's defense was unreal, you know, and so it just I don't think that it's like Brady leading the Patriots to a Super Bowl or Mahomes leading the Chiefs to a Super Bowl because the talent gap is so much wider in college football than it is in the pros.
Right.
Sam in North Carolina, have you guys seen this rumor going around that Jaden Daniels' visit to the Commanders didn't go well and he expects to be a Patriot? What do you think about this rumor?
I did see that rumor, but I don't know what it means.
Well, he like retweeted it then, and now it's like somebody saying he hadn't even visited the Commanders. I don't know. It's just someone else put something. There's like a.
You think he's
account,
trying to avoid getting?
No,
taken by
I think this is just draft idiocy, and on Twitter with this, like, I think it was like somebody put like ML football, like it's one of those, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was it was literally like covering every base, like breaking news with a siren, like every single scenario as being pitched as like this is what's going to happen. So I just think we're in draft silly season, and that these are the kind of things that get drummed up for clicks and reads and attention.
Yeah, I do. They are such different personalities, though, Jaden Daniels and Drake May, that if one of them is more your cup of tea, like Drake May is this Southern kid that's always got a smile on his face, is pretty laid back, like, happy-go-lucky kind of kid. Jaden Daniels seems like he's been a star in the NFL for 10 years already. Just the way, and it's LSU Heisman Trophy winner, a little bit older of a prospect too. So there's reasons for it, but Jaden Daniels is like he kind of knows he's it.
It's funny. There's a lot of these things that I think are kind of smokescreens, but I kind of wonder what's the end game for the smokescreen? Like, who's trying to fool who and get someone to do what?
Right.
And I can't
Too
really
many
figure
threads.
Too many.
Who
Too many
benefits?
voices in my head.
Who benefits? Ben from BC, this will be our last email. Thank you for your in-depth coverage, analysis over the last few months. I'm looking forward to the draft so we can move on from the May versus Daniels discussion. That being said, I have to say Tuesday's show changed something for me. I used to weigh each of your opinions equally. However, Fred's take on the last season of Game of Thrones raised some red flags for me.
Thank you.
It was by far the worst possible storyline they could have selected, poorly written, and undermined what they had created over the previous seasons. Thank you, Evan, for having no time for that ridiculousness.
No notes. Perfect.
So there you go.
I'm still waiting for the books to come.
We'll end on that note.
You and only you.
All right. So is that it for this week? Anything I need to tell anybody about?
No, that's going to be it. We're going to do a little draft breakdown on the quarterbacks. So that'll be last episode, produced episode will be out next Wednesday. We'll do a live show on the 24th. But otherwise, I think we're just closing in on the old draft.
All right. We'll be back Tuesday. See you next Tuesday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original.